Welcome to Looking at Legal Stuff. Today we have 14 hearings, 6 of which are new, with a couple who are trying to establish Dad's visitation after splitting up due to a DV-related incident and his substance abuse issue while in the military. Mom is leery of giving Dad any visitation due to Dad not getting on board with the treatment ordered by the court until very recently. She wants things to go slow. Dad, on the other hand, is always pushing for more visitation and access than currently recommended by the gal, no matter how far along he gets. Let's see what the judge thinks of this.
All right, I'm here to review how the visitation's been going. Mr. Kiyoshi filed, just a moment, a note that I need to look in. I haven't started completely yet. Mr. Kiyoshi filed a declaration. And Ms. Vaughn, did you have a chance to see that?
No, I was not served a copy of that, and I don't believe Beth was either.
I was not either.
No, I filed that last night, yesterday. I'm off Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so I try to.
Can you speak up a little bit? You're coming through a little light.
Yeah, I filed it yesterday. I tried to get paperwork done on my off time, and that's when I could do it, and that's why they don't have it. They'll get it in the mail though.
Okay. Well, let me check in with the parties and how the visitation has been going. I'll start with Ms. Vaughn.
Okay, so a few things have changed since the last time that we met. He has supposed to be making 2 virtual visits a week, and then the potential for in-person supervised visits once every other week for 2 hours. That's what our order says. So since our last meeting, he has made 4 calls in total. He requested 1, and then he did not call after I confirmed that it would be doable, and that was on the 9th. He then called the 10th for about 10 minutes, and the 11th, he called for about half an hour, and during that time, he was playing with the dog, he was checking other apps on his phone, he was pretty distracted, I would say, for that half an hour call. And then he called again on the 23rd, and that was a 5-minute call, to which he ended saying he needed to head to work. And then he called the 24th for, again, about 13 minutes is I think what the call was. And he seemed off during that call, like he maybe wasn't feeling well. I'm not really sure. He was laying in a bed, just kind of like seemed, I don't know, just off, I suppose. And he ended the call at 4:18 saying that he needed to head to his treatment group. And then I was informed that he actually did not show up to that group meeting at 5 at all. So he has not been in compliance with his AA treatments. He hasn't done, so a little bit of backtrack slightly. So when he was given the in-person supervised visits, it was under the impression that he was in compliance with his treatment, which is a requirement of a weekly group session and then 2 AA meetings outside of that. So me and Beth both were under the impression that he was in compliance. And then further investigation revealed that he actually has not attended a single AA meeting since the beginning of treatment. So he has not seen Corey because our order states that he is not to get in person without being in compliance with treatment. So he now has not seen Corey for almost 2 months. And even the 3 times he did get to see Corey, he technically should not have been allowed to see him. You also put in their last hearing that he was supposed to get a DV assessment done with collateral input. And as far as both myself and Beth are knowing, he has not done that either. So he hasn't been making the proper times, quality, or number of calls. He hasn't done any in-persons. He's not in compliance with AA, and he's not in compliance with that DV evaluation. So kind of at this point in time, there's really not much to update on. It's mostly just letting you know that nothing is really being done, and he's very inconsistent.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kiyoshi?
Yes. So I did submit a declaration yesterday. which I will read and they will get in the mail, but I will read it just so they know what I wrote, so they can hear it for this hearing. So, and it's a lot for me to try and get out without having it written down. So I'm gonna read it out so everybody can hear, and then you guys can talk after I'm done and I say my piece. I said, I am disheartened by the one fact everything I've done for our son has only further pushed me away from him. I feel that my character has been dragged through the mud. I've stated that since I separated from Corey's mother, Alexandria, I have grown for the better. I've stopped drinking and started going to church. The whole time in Colorado, I reached out almost once a day to FaceTime Corey. It was never a problem. Now she's manipulated my character and I get at least 30 minutes over video twice a week. That's an hour every 7 days. Also, since the first day of court, the quality of these FaceTimes has not been good, and I have repeatedly stated that in court. I am overlooked as a father wanting to spend real quality time with his son. Again, I am being judged solely off what she has said and whoever will listen to her. Whoever will listen to her of her hard past, which I'm not disregarding, but I am done with her using her past traumas to raise Corey and blame me and control me. Alexandria and I were both asked to create environments where Corey and I could have more quality in our FaceTime visits, which is what she wanted. I didn't argue. Now I go into quiet rooms or places where it is only me and the camera with no distractions. Like I said in court, that is not reciprocated on her end. I cannot be asked to create a space away from my family, and on her camera, the television's on, he's on his tablet, she's talking to her sister, walking around in the background. Multiple times I have video called. After setting up a time on our family wizard, she answers, gives the phone to Corey, and says, talk to daddy. The phone always ends up on the floor and I'm looking at the ceiling, or the screen is pitch black and I'm calling for Corey to pick up the phone so I can see him. Alexandria only tells her side of the story in court. She does not care for my relationship with my son, and that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the fact that she pretends to care about my relationship with our son in front of the court and manipulates the story to show that I am not putting enough effort when I actually am. There's no point to be on a video call with Corey if the quality isn't there and we're not interacting. I have emailed Beth Fellows after one of the FaceTimes with my concerns about it, and she said nothing on the matter. She didn't even say anything about it in our last court hearing. I did not go silent on her. I did email her after that interaction on FaceTime and got nothing. Again, that does not bother me. I am more bothered at the fact that she pretends to care when she does not. For that, I have concerns about Beth Fellows working this case. I have always been a great father, and never have I been a threat to my son or Alexandria. You granted physical visitations 1 hour every 2 weeks. That's 2 hours every month. That's what it would have been, 2 hours every month. After the first physical visit with Corey, which went great, Barbara was supervising that visit. She wanted to move it to 2 hours after only one visit, and it happened. That should show I do have a great relationship with my son. He ran and hugged me on the first visit. The last court hearing, Beth Fellows said nothing about my visitations with Corey and did not say anything in court about Barbara's thoughts on my interactions with my son, which is what this is all about, my relationship with my son. This is another concern I have with her involvement and commitment to this case as GAO. Alexandria even said that he had a meltdown on one of our FaceTimes because I hung up. I hung up because I met that time. I wasn't trying to go further into anything from what you wanted us to do. Again, that should show something about the relationship I have with my own son. A great relationship that needs to be maintained and built on. But Alexandria says about that is that I hung up on my son when he walked he wants to talk longer. Again, she is trying to paint a bad image of me, and I've had enough. It is clear Corey's best interest is not her main focus. Since the last hearing, the beginning of January, I have tried to schedule days to FaceTime Corey. Alexandria works 3 days out of the week. She is off Saturday and Tuesday. I have informed her that since she was off Saturday and Monday, I could make those work for FaceTime calls. She said those days don't work for her. I have 2 days off, Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesdays are group meetings for me. Wednesdays are when I plan to have physical visits with Corey. I know she is trying to be difficult and wants me to do things her way in that she can control me. I knew this would be a problem. Again, she says we can communicate and schedule times for Corey, but this only makes it easier for her to push what she wants. I feel it would have been better for the court to set a time that would best fit my schedule and hers would compromise on both ends. It causes less friction. I have missed his second birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. I will not sit and allow myself to be dismissed as a father and mischaracterized as a person. Nobody should work this hard to spend time with their child. I will not continue to do what I am told to get validation from people who know nothing about me other than what Alexandria has stated about me. It's degrading to me that I now have to prove myself worthy of raising my own child. To people that have never seen for themselves my interactions with my son and are basing my fatherhood off what a woman thinks I should be as a father. I have never had any issues until I married Alexandria, and I'm not blaming her. I understand I was moving too fast, and I have stated this in court before. Though I will say that this is about me getting to raise my son as his father, and so far I have just been jumping through hoops, and Alexandria has continued to prolong me seeing my son. I continue to try, and I would rather spend money to take my son somewhere than pay for classes I know I don't need. I have been going to the weekly group meetings, and I want to make it clear that I don't need these classes. I quit drinking months before. I quit drinking months before I was told to seek treatment. This was another way for Alexandria to try and control me. I won't have it anymore. I'm clearly seen as a second-class citizen in this case. This is not giving up on my son. I am standing up because I have had enough of people pretending to care for my relationship with my son. Too much time has been wasted. I will not waste any more time and money waiting for people's approval of my rights to be a father when their commitment to Corey's relationship with me as his father is clearly not priority. I will always love my son. I can't wait to spend time with him. I don't know when that time will be, but until then, I will stay honest. I will stay an honest man to myself and others, content with the fact I did not give in to what people thought of me. I want to move forward and seeing as my relationship with my son is not priority to anyone but me. Now I want to focus on work and providing for my son without extra unnecessary bills. I would also like to focus on finalizing my divorce as soon as possible. I don't want my son growing up thinking I'm a threat to him or Alexandria. So I ask you to keep the protection order up for her and her alone. I understand we have a child together. We will be in communication about anything concerning Corey. Outside of that parameter, I will not talk to her and I will continue to stay away from her.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kiyoshi.
Can I respond to that?
Not yet. I'm going to hear from Ms. Fellows first.
Yes, Your Honor. The concern that I have is that the information that I have regarding the substance use and the DV, which is evaluations were recommended and the court did order those were directly from the discharge packet that he got from the military. having those records and seeing why he was separated from the military solidified why I made those recommendations. Yes, the mom did have a lot of concerns, but having that information is what solidified that. I would like to let the court know is that the father is not in compliance with his substance use treatment. He did get changed over to Tuesday groups from 5 to 6:30 p.m. His first Tuesday group was supposed to be the 17th. He did make that one. He did not make the one on the 24th. However, he was excused because he did call in. So he did make contact. He was supposed to have group last night. I did talk to the counselor, and he left me voicemail last night after the group and said that Mr. Kiyoshi was a no call, no show. So that is of concern. When I talked to the counselor earlier yesterday, asking about the NAAA slips, that he has not still, even though it was brought to his attention and that he was told that he needed to do those starting in January. He was actually supposed to be doing those from the very beginning, but he still has not complied with that. The counselor said there is nothing listed in their computer system at all. So that is indeed very concerning. And the DV evaluation, I did basically Google, just try to find a DV agency that could do the evaluation up in the Olympia area. I did find one, and I also called where Mr. Kiyoshi goes to treatment, Northwest Resources, to see what they recommended, and it was the same agency. And so I gave that information to Mr. Kiyoshi, and I don't know, it sounds like he hasn't followed through with that. It is concerning that the video visits haven't been consistent. He had yesterday off, and per our family wizard, which I do have access to, he did not make contact with the mom to request any kind of video visit. So that's on him. It's on him that he didn't follow through with contacting group or going to group. That's on him. It's on him regarding the AANA. So at this point, it's basically status quo. I understand that he feels like he's being picked on or what have you, but the fact is that we have information directly from the military about why he was separated. Substance use was an issue and DV was an issue. And so to address those and have the evaluations, which he did, the substance use one, and he was recommended for treatment. He says he doesn't have a problem. Well, the evaluation says otherwise. And the fact that he doesn't recognize it is a concern. So at this point in time, status quo. I do agree with Mr. Kiyoshi that there should be more of a schedule for the video visits. I believe that it would be more beneficial if, like, he were to contact the mom at least 24 hours prior to when he wants to have a video visit. Tuesdays seem to be a common day that they both can do it. So a Tuesday at whatever time, but I believe that there should be some kind of schedule, like at least advance notice 24 hours prior. And if he doesn't make any request by, say, 5 o'clock on the Monday prior, is that there is no video visit. So those are my concerns, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I normally would give everybody more time to respond, but I'm already about a half hour over on this docket and I have to go to another one. And I've got one more matter to do. So I want to say that I understand Mr. Kiyoshi's concerns. But from the beginning of this case, there's been objective concerns regarding domestic violence and alcohol use because of the actions taken by the military. And so the orders I've made have been trying to encourage treatment for that and also get the appropriate evaluations. Ultimately, I want Mr. Kiyoshi to have a frequent and loving relationship with his son. But the court's interest is to make sure that children that I see, that I learn about, are safe. And Mr. Kiyoshi, I will say, has been asked to do a lot more than a lot of fathers are asked to do, and he, at least it appeared up until today that he was following through on what we asked. The concern today is that you may not be attending the meetings or following through with your treatment. And I particularly was hoping that we'd have the domestic violence evaluation completed by today, but we don't. So the one thing I want to focus on as quickly as we can is I'd like to pick one time during the week, which will be a cast in stone. This is when you do a video visit with your son. Okay. So Mr. Kiyoshi, you know what your schedule is. What would you recommend as that time?
Wednesday would work, but not until she's off work.
I'm sorry, you came through really light. I think I heard Wednesday.
Wednesday would work, but she's working until 4. So I guess Tuesday. I do have more points I wanted to bring up. So
I understand, and again, given my time, I'm not sure that I'm able to address those today. I want to get past this video visit time. What time on Tuesday works for you?
I'm off Tuesday. She's off Tuesday, so noon, 1 o'clock would work.
Ms. Vaughn, you're off Tuesday at some point?
So he mentioned the visitation thing, how he wanted it to be Saturdays and Wednesdays. Beth has seen our chats back and forth. I've been in great communication with her about that. And from the beginning of this case to now, it's always been him picking and choosing and me bending to that. Otherwise, he doesn't make these calls for our son. So I feel like him continuing to get to pick and choose isn't him fitting into his child's schedule. It's him trying to force his child to fit into his. And that's not really how the reintegration needs to go. I told him Saturdays were not good for me. I agreed to Wednesdays. I also told him in counter to Saturday that I would be okay with doing Sundays before he needed to go to work. But he said church is more important than calling his son. So that's where our difference is. He keeps pushing Saturdays and Wednesdays, which are a day that I'm busy and a day that I work. And then I keep saying Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Those are the 3 that I can make happen easily because I'm off those 3 days and I don't have obligations.
Mondays and
Ma'am,
Saturdays.
we're focusing on Tuesday. What time on Tuesday works for you?
I have an appointment reoccurring every Tuesday. I have therapy and I can't guarantee, but it's either 9 to 10, 10 to 11, or 1 to 2. So I don't have a set Tuesday until after Corey's nap, essentially, which is roughly 5 p.m. I was already accommodating my appointments on Tuesdays to try to fit in-person visits, but again, he hasn't done any of those. So I just keep rearranging our schedules to try to make it work for him. And I have responded to every single text he's ever sent me within an hour. So
that doesn't change when Mr. Kiyoshi can call.
So my appointments are booked 3 weeks in advance. If he asks me for a time, I'm still willing to do 2.
a negotiation on this every week, because I think that's causing
I think
problem.
he needs more structure. If he's given free will, he just doesn't do it. So I do want more structure,
Ms. Vaughn, you're
100%.
testing my patience, okay? Let me go to you. You tell me a date certain when Mr. Kiyoshi can call his son.
My offering was going to be Sunday at 11 a.m. and also Wednesday at 6 p.m. I was going to still want 2 calls a week.
Mr. Kiyoshi, do either of those work for you?
Yes, let me write that. I'll make it work. I have church on
Tell
Sunday.
me which of those 2 dates works for you.
Wednesday.
All right, Wednesday at 6 p.m.
That works.
Every week, Mr. Kiyoshi, you will initiate a call and you will spend time talking to your son. That's either a call or a video. Ms. Vaughn, you will make your son available with no distractions to talk to his dad.
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's the only decision I'm going to make today. Everything else stays the same. I'm going to put this over 3 weeks. Mr. Kiyoshi, I want you to at least schedule a domestic violence evaluation by that time. And I want to know that you've been in compliance with your substance abuse treatment.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that we're going to be back here on February 22nd.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Before we start, is there anyone who's going to request a continuance or a set over in any of their cases?
Yes,
Your Honor.
Your Honor. This
Yes.
is Beth
Yes.
Fellows.
Okay, we need to take this one at a time. I didn't see who was that. Ms. Fellows, did you ask?
Yes, I did. It would be the Vaughn Kiyoshi matter. I'm asking for at least a 1 week to 2 week continuance. The father served or got his paperwork served about 3:15 yesterday is when I received it. And so that's less than 24 hours before court. So I'm asking for a 1 week to 2 week continuance.
Mr. Kiyoshi, any response to the 1 week request for 1 week?
Yeah, it's just the declaration that I did read last hearing. So I don't know I don't really think we need to set it back a week.
Is Ms. Vaughn here?
She is, yeah.
Here.
Are you okay with setting this over a week as requested by the guardian?
Yeah.
All right. Normally when a guardian asks for more time so that they can do additional investigation, I usually grant that. So thank you both for being here. And I'm going to do a 1 week continuance. So we'll see you back here. Let me give you the date on that. Will be, I believe, March 1st.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yep.
Present.
See Ms. Vaughn here, Ms. Fellows, and Mr. Kiyoshi.
Here, Your Honor.
We put this over a week because I think Ms. Fellows wanted to have additional contact with the parties. Were you able to do that? Ms. Fellows?
Yes, Your Honor. I did want to review the declaration that the father had filed. He filed it on January 31st, but he did not serve it until the day before last week's court. So I wanted to be able to review that. It's interesting that the copy that was served to me was not signed. Was not a signed copy by the father, although the one that was in Odyssey is signed. And then the other thing is that there's actually some pictures that are in the copy that was served to me, but they're different than the ones that were on filed with Odyssey. Not an overly big deal, but just wanted to bring that to the court's attention. I do have some concerns about the father's declaration, is that he's pointing a lot of fingers at the mother, that we're taking a lot of the information from the mother. He had issues with me as well. But the simple fact, and he basically said that he was not going to do what he had been ordered to do. So that was, I have concerns about that. But what I will say at this point, I do have some new information. I did call his treatment provider. I did call them last week, and then I called them again yesterday. He is now basically in compliance. He had not been in compliance throughout this whole time doing his AANA meetings. He was supposed to do 2 times a week since November, since he started. He had not done any until about February 10th, I think, was the first one that he submitted. So from last week to this week, he actually has done them all. I talked to Jamie, his provider. He basically was going to like 2 or 3 meetings a day to get caught up. She did tell me he is caught up. I did ask her how much longer he had to go. And she counted and basically said, to her surprise, is that he is basically done with phase 1. He had 12 weeks to do the group sessions. He has done those, although he hasn't necessarily been overly consistent, but he has completed those. He did the AANA, he's completed those. So she has now basically graduated him to phase 2, where he only has to do a 1 monthly meeting for about 3 months, is what she said. So that's good. I commend the father. I know it's been a struggle. So I commend him for that. The other issue at hand that he basically said that he was not going to do in his declaration, but he has since called for a DV evaluation. I emailed him about that, and he said that he had called, I think it was February 10th, and he got a date for the evaluation for March 15th. I did call them yesterday late afternoon to just confirm it. I have not heard back. So that is another good thing, that Dad is finally following through with what the court had ordered. But his declaration is concerning, just mainly because I feel like he's blaming the mother for the information, for having to do these services, when in reality, he was discharged from the military because of DV and alcohol. So there is that factual information that I'm largely basing my information on and what I was concerned about. That said, my understanding is that the FaceTime visits have gone much better since the court ordered that they were to be at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. That has made it where it is, everybody knows what time and everything else, so it can be scheduled. So that is going really well. The mother has indicated that the FaceTime visits have gone longer since they have been so consistent. So that is a really good thing. So at this point, given the information that I had gotten last night or late yesterday afternoon regarding treatment, I am recommending that the in-person visits restart again I am a wee bit concerned about Dad not being overly consistent with his DV if he is recommended for treatment. But then again, he did do what was asked of him to get his in-person visit. So I think that we need to move forward with that.
And that would be supervised with Ms. Brandhorst?
She supervised, yes, at this point. Apparently she is not able to do it given the change in Dad's work schedule. So Parents' Place was able to do it. I believe it was on Tuesdays because Mom works on Wednesdays. So Tuesdays was workable for Parents' Place back about a month or so ago. I hope that they would still have that availability. And that's here in Longview.
Let me hear from Ms. Vaughn first, and then Mr. Kiyoshi, I'll hear from you. Ms. Vaughn, anything you want to add at this point?
Yes, so I am okay with the supervised visits happening since he is in compliance, but I do also share the same concern with Beth of the consistency. Like she said, he hasn't been in compliance since this last week with treatment, and he happened to make up the last 4 months of his outlined plan in this last week. So I'm concerned that with the treatment moving from weekly to monthly, it may cause him to be able to slip through the cracks again like he did when he was getting supervised visits back in November. Is there a way to make sure like we are able to get, like can he turn his AA slips into Miss Fellows or something so that I can check in with her since I can't contact his treatment center to be able to make sure he's in compliance? Or could there be a way for him to like email me his slips so I can just see that he's still in compliance before a supervised visit is made?
I think I prefer that Ms. Fellows get that information and that she report to me on our review sessions. I think that makes sense. And if Ms. Fellows feels there's a significant concern, she can put the case on the docket if we don't otherwise have it scheduled.
Okay, and then
We'll be in touch with her about that, but I think I'd rather that information go to her.
That's fine with me. I just wanted to make sure there was some way someone knew if he wasn't in compliance again. My other concern is actually pertaining to the restraining order that I had proposed to you at the whole beginning of this. So since then, there's been an issue with how he has served me documents, both in our summons and petition for our divorce and the motion for temporary family orders. It states that they are to be served to my sister's address across town. My address has been listed as confidential on everything. Due to the nature of the case, I didn't want him or his family to know where me and my son were living. And somehow he stalked my address to the point of finding us, locating us, and having us served at my home twice now. One being last Tuesday when we got this set of his declaration. The first time it happened was back in October, and he was out in his car outside my home, despite the bench order of there supposed to be no contact between us. It's very concerning, and it's kind of ruins the peace of mind and well-being and safety in my mind of my own home. And I ask that that be granted. I had gone to law enforcement with it after I was served last week, and they had said without an actual restraining order signed and in place, they cannot act upon it. So I'm concerned about this, for sure, concerned about this. I want to be able to feel like I'm safe in my home.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kiyoshi, any response to all of this?
Yeah, sure, Honor. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So again, I wrote down my thoughts just because I have a lot to say, but so I did get the evaluation scheduled for March 15th. As far as being consistent with my treatment and everything in my declaration, the reason why I had questions about, or not questions. The reason why I had problems with doing these treatments is because we were told to, it all started with the FaceTime visits. We had to create a space where me and him can interact. That wasn't happening. If it's not reciprocated on her end and I'm doing all the work to see our son, where's the equality in that? That's the whole thing with the consistency. But after last hearing, I did start going to the AA meetings and I've completed them. I've talked to my counselor. I'm good with that treatment, and I'm on the phase 2. So my concern now is that the visitations with our son, the FaceTime visitations, they're going a lot better now. You put it off a week, last hearing, which was last week, you put it off a week. I'm moving forward, and I'm taking these steps so I can have quality time with my son. These virtual visitations, 30 minutes, they're good, it's something, but I need more than that as a father. I can't raise him over a camera. And with the protection order, if she feels she's unsafe, I went every time I go down to turn in paperwork, declarations, or anything like that, I go to the court and I've asked them, because they've sent me down to the sheriff's office to try and get these declarations served to her. The lady at the counter told me I just need a third party to get the papers to her. Since the protection order was put up, not once have I tried to go see my son. Not once have I gone to her house to cause problems. The reason why I have someone serve the papers to her home, which I wasn't stalking her to try and get it. I'm just trying to make sure she gets the paperwork. I don't want any gray areas where I send it to her sister's house and then she said she never got it. I want to make sure she actually gets the paperwork.
Well, if she wants to be served at her sister's house, I think that's something that we need to comply with. And,
okay.
And if you want to send it certified, to make sure you get a card back so that, somebody can't come back and say, well, it never was received. You're free to do that. But I don't think it's appropriate to ignore that request and simply go to her house.
Your Honor.
Understood, Your Honor.
Let Mr. Kiyoshi finish. Go ahead.
So, okay, that's understood. It won't happen again. I don't go near her or her house if I don't need to, and I don't try to cause problems when I do. I just want to make sure the paperwork gets to her. That's all. And it's not me serving, so I thought it was okay, but now I understand, Your Honor. So, from what I said earlier, not once have I, other than to serve paperwork, not once have I tried to go see my son. It's been 2 months since I've seen him. I still have his Christmas present sitting here. I've done the visit. I'm in compliance now. And then, sorry, I wrote my thoughts out because I have a lot to say. So, Ms. Beth Fellows is saying I can have those supervised visitations. Other than not being in compliance and her not keeping up her end on creating that space for me and him to interact, and I've mentioned this in court multiple times, it's hard to interact with him, and I can't raise a kid over a camera. No one can. So the supervised visitations are back on the table from what Ms. Beth Fellows said. I would like quality time with my son unsupervised. And if that means that we have a third party pick him up, drop him off, and me and mom don't ever have to talk to each other, I'm okay with that. But I can't raise a son over a camera. The FaceTimes have been going good, but mom is in the video too, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. So I'm watching them play. That's fine. I can't play with him over a camera. So I'm not mad that, you know, they're sitting there playing and stuff. It's his mom. But what am I doing? I'm sitting there just watching. And like I said, the supervised visitations, it's an hour, it's 2 hours every other week. That's 4 hours in 30 days. How is that? It's not helping build the relationship I already have with our son. I need some quality time with him, with her, and I mean, because she doesn't feel safe. I'm okay with that. We don't ever have to see each other, but we can have a third party pick up and drop off. That's fine. If it's a day off and I need to spend the whole day in Kelso because she doesn't want me too far, that's fine. I'll find something to do with him in Kelso for the whole day. They're garnishing my paycheck, which I have no problems with supporting my child. I have him under my medical insurance. Like, I have no problem with, but he's under my medical insurance. Like, they're garnishing my paycheck for him. I have no problems with that, but I have no quality time with my son. So she's okay with me taking care of him, but not having that quality time with my son as a father. Like I said, his Christmas presents are still here. I haven't seen him in 2 months. I'm in compliance now, but I want quality time with our son. Just me and him, without her, without anybody. I can't raise a son. I can't raise a son 4 hours in a month. It's not healthy. He's always going to be questioning, where's my, he's used to it now, but because that's what was put in place. But I need to be able to, hold my son, hug. I haven't hugged my son, but I'm doing my best to take care of him. She's okay with it if I'm taking care of him, but I'm not there to raise him. That's not okay. I'm a father. It's my right to be able to raise my son. And I'm sorry if I'm getting loud, but I'm just, this has been going on since September, October. Like, I need time with my son. I'm okay with taking care of him, but I'm taking care of him and he lives down the road and I can't even go see him, pick him up, take him to the park. I can't do any of that. And it's frustrating.
Mr. Kiyoshi, I fully support your desire to have quality time with your son. We're here because there was an alcohol issue that resulted in a termination from the military. There was treatment ordered that initially you didn't comply with. And I had ordered for over a month now a domestic violence evaluation. And now you've set that up for the 13th. You're doing, at this point, what the court needs you to do to make sure that when you're with your son, that your son's going to be safe. Okay?
Right.
But we are not at the point of unsupervised visits. And I will just tell you from my perspective, I want to see the results of the domestic violence evaluation before I would even consider that. And if there's treatment that's ordered, then we'll have to look at that. Again, you're moving in the right direction, but I will just be totally transparent with you. This is going to move a lot slower than you want. and you may get frustrated. And I guess if you want to, you can tell me about that frustration. But I just want you to understand that's how this process is going to work. But I want it to move forward. So it sounds like when we set a specific date for the video visits or in specific time, that those started going better. That's good. Ms. Fellows is now saying, let's go back to the supervised visits because you're now in compliance with the treatment. You've scheduled the DV evaluation. That's good. We're moving in the right direction. Okay. If the domestic violence evaluation, let's say is okay. I don't know what it will be. Then maybe we take another step at that point. So I am going to tell you, you're going to be frustrated with this process, but I'm going to take the steps that I need to make sure your son is safe. Okay. Now, Ms. Fellows wants to say something, and I'll let her do that.
Yes, Your Honor. I was thinking instead of the every other week for supervised visitation because he has done what this part of it is to do every week 2 hours at parents' place.
And that possibly would be Tuesdays.
Yes, I do have a text out to the director at Parents' Place to see if they have Tuesdays available. She hasn't gotten back to me quite yet.
Ms. Vaughn, would you be able to accommodate that with your schedule?
So I would be willing to once we have the DV eval in hand to see what it states. So potentially at our next hearing, if that's okay. This one I would still be willing to do every other week since he is just transitioning to once a month with his AA stuff. I kind of want to see if he stays in compliance with that, given the history of not being in compliance.
I don't see much danger to your son by having supervised visits before that DV evaluation.
Okay,
so
that's fine. Can you also just clarify? He had said that he's been serving them to my house, and he wants to make sure the service is made. He has not filed any proofs of service, so he could also do that to make sure to show that he's done it.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I did hear back from Kathy Griffin at Parents' Place. They do have between 10:30 and 1:30. So there could be a visit like 10:30 to 12:30.
All right, thank you. I appreciate everybody's input. I am going to order starting next Tuesday, supervised visits at Parents' Place from 10:30 to 12:30. That will be every week going forward. The Wednesday video visits, I think they were 6 p.m., will continue. Mr. Kiyoshi is ordered to not go to Ms. Vaughn's house, not have anybody on his behalf go to her house. Service will be at Ms. Vaughn's sister's house. Either that can be done personally on the sister or sent by the mail. Mr. Kiyoshi, I don't want you to personally serve anything on the sister, but if you want a third party to serve her on behalf of Ms. Vaughn, you can do that. But primarily, I think you should be able to just send stuff in the mail if you're doing declarations or whatever you file.
I had a question, Your Honor.
Just a minute. I want to pick a review date. Do you think Ms. Fellows will have evaluation done if he has the evaluation the 15th? Would that be completed by the 29th, or do you think we need more time for that?
I would say, just to err on the side of caution, maybe another week or two after that, just in case.
All right.
Sometimes
I'm not going to be here on April 5th, so let's go April 12th.
Okay.
I will enter a bench order with the decisions that I've made today.
I have one more question, if I may.
Let me just finish my thought on something. So the DV evaluation should end up with Ms. Fellows. So if you need to do a release of information with them so she can get it, I expect her to review it and she can report to the court about it when we get back together. All right, Ms. Vaughn, go ahead.
We have a family vacation plan that is out of state for about a week in the end of March. Is that going to be okay since he will now have to miss a visit?
I'm willing to accommodate that. So is that the last week in March?
It is the 18th of March to the 25th of March. So he would be missing Tuesday, the 21st.
Okay, so that means the Tuesday, the 21st and Wednesday, the 22nd.
He can make the call Wednesday, totally fine. I just won't be able to take him in. Tuesday.
All right, so we'll have to skip the 21st for the in-person visit.
Yes, Your Honor. I had a question just
All
to
right,
clarify something. So so I'm now on, I can see him weekly.
You can do what?
I can, the in-person visitations are weekly
Our weekly, yes.
and they start, so you said it starts on Tuesday. Can I set one for this Tuesday coming up?
I think you may have to call Parents Place, but the first one should be on March 7th. And then the 14th, and we'll have to skip the 21st and then 28th and 4th and 11th before we get back together.
And
Okay.
And just to let you know, is that Kathy at Parents Place said that she needs to have paperwork from both parents before the visits can be started. So it's up to both parents to get it ASAP
Okay.
For the visits to start next week.
So everybody needs to cooperate with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for your good work, Mr. Kiyoshi, and we'll see you back here in a little over a month, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yoshi matter, which is 22-3-254-08. There we should have Alexandria Vaughn. Ms. Vaughn, are you on the line this morning?
She is. She should be in here. I saw her.
Oh, it looks like it says it's connecting to audio. So we'll wait for her to connect. And then Mr. Kiyoshi, you're present and you can hear me okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Ms. Fellows joins us as the guardian ad litem, and Ms. Looney is present representing.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to mention that Ms. Vaughn has been trying to connect to audio the entire docket, so I'm not sure if she's having trouble getting connected.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's a good noticing. I appreciate that.
Your Honor, I did want to ask, we do have another hearing set for the 12th, if we could hold it off till next week on the 12th. Is Commissioner Nelson, will he be present on the 12th?
That's the anticipation, yes.
Okay, so
that was going to be the state's request as well. We were just waiting for Ms. Vaughn to be present.
Yeah. Ms. Fellows, any concerns if we were to set this matter over to, it sounds like a date that's already been scheduled.
That's fine, Your Honor. My understanding is that today's date was just for child support.
That was my understanding also. In reviewing the case, I did see that, I believe I saw that there was a date set for next week.
Yes.
That's the recollection of the parties also?
yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So it looks like Ms. Vaughn, she looks like she dropped off, I think. Yeah, it looks like she dropped off. I just want to make sure that we have, just for my own peace of mind, I want to make sure that hearing date of April 13th was noted when she was present, so she doesn't miss out on anything.
I believe it's the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. 12th is when the hearing was set.
Yeah, yes, I think you're correct. I was looking on March 1st
Okay.
hearing notes. It says the court rules and sets the matter over to April 12th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And at that hearing was Ms. Fellows was present, Mr. Kiyoshi was present, and Ms. Vaughn was present. So that gives me that peace of mind that I need. All right. So with that, we'll leave that date set. The issue of child support will be set over to that date for review.
Yes,
Thank you,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
Okay. Thanks for your patience. We'll see everybody. Thanks.
Vaughn and Zachary Kiyoshi. I think they're both here. Good morning to all of you. Good morning, Ms. Looney. Ms. Fellows again.
Good morning.
We're here on two issues, I believe. One is to check in on how the supervised visits are going and just how the contact is going in general. And second is to discuss child support, and Ms. Looney, I think, will address that. Let's first go to how the visits are going. Let me hear from Mr. Kiyoshi first, and then Ms. Vaughn, and then Ms. Fellows.
They've been, can you hear me, Your Honor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. They've been going good. It's been 5 visits. We weren't able to make 2 because of that trip to Colorado, and then he was sick the week after. So I've seen them. I've got mine, and I did ask them to write the notes on these visits because I would like them. I don't know. I wanted to turn them in. I just wasn't enough time for the hearing. So I have the notes on those, but other than that, the visits have been going great. Other than the 2 that were not able to happen.
Okay. Let's just leave it at that. I want to just kind of do a roundtable and hear from everybody. Ms. Vaughn, what's your impression of how the visits are going?
So from what they've said, the in-persons have been going pretty well, except they have been giving me a lot of reports that my son's not eating well and they're not practicing potty training with him, which at home he is potty trained. So that's kind of a concern and a setback for his age. As far as the in-persons go, we did miss 2 of them, one because we were in Colorado, which was excused, and then the next he ended up coming down with hand, foot, and mouth. As far as the phone visits, though, the first 2 weeks after our last hearing went really well. They were pretty good. And then he did not make the call the next week, the 3rd week. And then there's been 3 since then. And those last 3 have not been as good as they've been in the past. So for example, last week when he called, he asked to call at 5 instead of 6 because he had group. And I said, okay, that's fine. But then the whole 20 minutes that he called, he was filling out paperwork.
All right, Ms. Fellows, any comment on how things are going?
No comment, Your Honor.
Do you have supervised visits now once a week, Mr. Kiyoshi?
I do, Your Honor.
And that's at parents' place?
Yes.
And you live in the Olympia area, is that right?
I do, Your Honor.
Is there another day of the week you'd be able to come down for a visit?
It'd be my weekends, which are Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's when the phone visits go. But other than that, I work 5 days out of the week. So.
And when is your supervised visit now? Is that on a Tuesday?
Tuesdays.
And so your next day off is just the next day, Wednesday?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I do know that Mr. Kiyoshi was scheduled to do a DV evaluation. I believe it was on March 15th. I haven't gotten confirmation that he has done it. I did email Mr. Kiyoshi last week to ask whether or not he had done it. Also, he has not paid his fees in full for the GAL fees. I sent out the email last Thursday and I have not heard back from him. So that was one of the big things that we were kind of waiting for also was the DV evaluation.
Mr. Kiyoshi, any update on that?
Yes, I did do it on the 15th. I have the letter, the appointment letter, which I thought I emailed the picture to Beth Fellows. If you didn't get it, I'll email it again. And they did tell me that because it's a collateral that they would get in contact with Alexandria to talk to her before they started the processing everything. And then it would take 30 to 40 days after talking to her to process everything and then get back to me. And I was waiting for a call from them. So there's not much I can do there.
How long is your supervised visit on Tuesdays?
2 hours.
Okay. I would like to give Mr. Kiyoshi more time with his son. And given the driving situation and the time, I think the best we can do at this point is expand the time from 2 to 3 hours. But I wanted some weigh in. Ms. Vaughn, does that create any problems for you if we do that?
A little bit. So I believe they only allow visitation on Tuesdays to be between 11 and 1 is what we do now. So that's the 2 hours, but I think they're only open 10 to 1, if I'm not mistaken. And I typically have my weekly therapy appointment from 9 to 10. So it would be, and my son doesn't wake up till 10:30 at like the earliest. So it kind of
All right, I don't want to interfere with that. I was hoping maybe we could go
later.
It's 3 hours, 11
Because I'd be okay with going later, but they had told me that the latest they would ever go is 1:30, and that was only in special situations.
I believe that they do parenting classes and things like that. So that's probably what part of their scheduling issue is.
Okay.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yeah, please.
So, so I understand that we are waiting for the DV assessment to get back to see if I can get the unsupervised or where we go from there. So I mean, if it's not going to work for mom and the parenting place, I'm okay with the 2 hours on Tuesdays. I'm hoping they get this done in the DV assessment process in the next week or so I can just move on to my unsupervised visitations.
Well, and I think you're reading my mind well, which is I'm not going to consider unsupervised until I get that evaluation.
Yes, Your Honor.
But we're probably going to have to go a month out. If let's say they get you the report in 2 weeks, that will need to be provided to Ms. Fellows and Ms. Vaughn to the court for everybody's consideration. So I think we're looking at probably 3 to 4 weeks out that we have to go. Yeah, I think I want to go 4 weeks out. So let's come back on May 10th. The DV evaluation is in. And we'll look at what that indicates and whether we can consider unsupervised visits at that time based on that report.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so now we need to go to child support and Ms. Looney.
Thank you, Your Honor. On this case, the state's interest is only as to the medical coverage for the child. We did provide some proposed child support worksheets simply because by the time we filed them, we hadn't received any income information from either parent. I did check this morning on Odyssey. I did not see any information from Mr. Kiyoshi, but we did receive information from Ms. Vaughn. So we feel that the court would have those to consider. So we wouldn't have a direct interest in the amount of support. We just want to ensure that we have as accurate an order as possible for the percentages for uninsured medical and daycare expenses. And we would be willing to draft that order based on Your Honor's ruling today.
What are you requesting then in terms of a support payment?
According to the information that we had, Your Honor, we used the employment security data that was available for Mr. Kiyoshi for Q4 of 2022. And so based on that, we also imputed Ms. Vaughn at her current wage at full time. So we had a net income for Mr. Kiyoshi of $3,005 and a net income for Ms. Vaughn of $2,323. And the resulting standard payment would be $557. So that's what we had based on the information available to the state. We're just not sure if either parent has different information that Your Honor would prefer to consider as well.
Okay. So, Mr. Kiyoshi, if you have seen the worksheets, your income based on what the state has is $3,491 a month. And then Ms. Vaughn is imputed at $2,642 a month. That results in a payment that would be made to the Department of Child Support of $557 each month. You have a comment on that?
Yes. So those are so I just got on to DOC. Those are not, I am making more now, and I have no problem paying to support my son. So if I need to get information in on that, I would do that. She also is now working part-time, which I would like to say she chooses to do. She's got a college education. She can work 40 hours a week if I can work 40 hours a week. And when I get it, it's this whole custody thing that we're going through that's kind of impeding us moving forward with that. But those numbers are not correct, if that was your question.
Okay. Ms. Vaughn, you were wanted to say something.
Yes, so I did file my financial declaration as you had asked us to do when you set this hearing. I gave it to them like 2 days after they had mailed me the worksheet they proposed, and the proposal that they made is actually way off. So I do only work 23 hours a week, and that's not by choice. That's the only time I have adequate childcare for our son. And I am paying for that. I'm paying $200 a month for that alone. So that's not taken into consideration in their proposal either. I would have loved to be able to make a proposal that actually fits his income and my income. As he just told you, he's making more than what they wrote, which was my concern since he had started the middle of Q4 working and it wasn't a full quarter to count for. But I couldn't do that without having his financial declaration and sealed financial documents to be able to make one that is more suited to our situation. It's not by choice that I'm only working 23 hours. My sister works full time and she's who watches my son for me to work. So I have to work around her schedule. And of course, his visitation and appointments. So it's not that I can work any more than I already am.
Ms. Looney, it sounds like both parties feel there's additional information they'd like to provide to you to consider. So why don't we put the child support over also to May 10th. And then Mr. Kiyoshi, I think you need to provide updated information.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, unfortunately, the state is unavailable on May 10th. So if we address child support, can we set that out to the 17th?
All right, we'll have to then have 2 hearings in a row, unless.
I'm not sure if the parties would be willing to set both
Unless we move
over.
both hearings. All right, I think just as a matter of judicial economy, that makes sense. So the review on the visits will also be on May 17th now. And the child support will be on May 17th. And both Mr. Kiyoshi and Ms. Vaughn should get to Ms. Looney as soon as you can, the updated information that you want her to consider. Okay.
Your Honor, I served her my financial declaration with my pay stubs updated on the 31st of March.
We
And I
did have
filed
those,
them
Your
with
Honor.
the court.
That was the information I indicated we had received. It was just, we didn't have anything for Mr. Kiyoshi to be able to verify what his current income was. We were just basing it off the information available to us through employment security data.
Okay. You may want to provide April's wage statement to Ms. Looney at some point. Okay. All right. So let me go around. Mr. Kiyoshi, any questions at this point?
No, Your Honor. So from my understanding, alternative counseling has not contacted Miss Alexander yet, right? No. Okay. And then Ms. Looney, I understand you probably sent me paperwork. I got to go through it again, but is there a number I can contact you?
Yes, you can call our office.
Yep.
It's 360
Yes, ma'am.
577 3074.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Vaughn, any questions?
I had questions regarding his substance treatment. So at our last hearing, he had switched from weekly groups to monthly groups. And we had discussed him turning in his 2 weekly AANA slips to Miss Fellows so we could make sure that he was being consistent with the history of inconsistency. And as far as I have been made aware, he hasn't turned any into Miss Fellows. And so we really don't know if what he did for substance treatment all of March to now.
All right. I think Ms. Fellows is going to be tracking that. Mr. Kiyoshi, you look like you want to say something, so I'll let you.
Yes, Your Honor. From my understanding, Ms. Beth Fellows actually calls into Northwest Resources to get my updates. There was some time gap from the weeklies to the monthlies, but the counselors were tracking on that, and it was because they were waiting on the UA from me to come in with the readings, and it was negative, and that's when they were able to put me into the monthlies. And I'm up to date with my AA meetings, monthlies. I got 2 more monthly meetings before treatment's done, and she can call my counselor now, and he can verify all that, which she has been doing.
Okay. It sounds like we're going to need to just verify all that also on May 17th. Okay.
And yes, Your Honor, that I have talked to his new counselor since he has gone to monthlies. I talked to him last week, and he did say that the father was scheduled for the first monthly, and he had very strict guidelines on providing the AANA slips, and that he would let Mr. Kiyoshi know. And I will be following up with that, and we'll definitely have updated information for the hearing on May 17th.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you back here on May 17th then, and go forward at that point. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your Honor, this is Beth Fellows.
Yes.
Starting ad litem, the Vaughn Kiyoshi matter is on
Yes.
today. I believe actually that it's going to need to be set over at least a couple of weeks. The father apparently emailed his domestic violence evaluation to me this morning, but I have not had a time to review it, and it is not filed with the court as well. I did email the father last night telling him that he needed to sign an ROI for me to be able to talk to the provider, but I got the evaluation, but it needs to be set over for at least a couple of weeks so I can review it. It needs to be filed with the court, and mom needs to get a copy, I believe.
All right. We're also on for child support on that case, I believe. So let me call that. Alexandria Vaughn and Mr. Kiyoshi. First of all, let's address what Ms. Fellows just said. She's asking for a 2-week set over to review things like visitation because she just got the evaluation documents. Any objection to that, either of you?
I don't have an objection to it, but I also haven't been served a copy of it either.
Okay. Did you send a copy to Ms. Vaughn?
So I called them alternative counseling yesterday, and she got the she got it into me late afternoon, and that's why it was so late. I did make sure to send a copy to Ms. Fellows. I don't see why we have to hold it over. I mean, I can see, I have it here, and Ms. Beth Fellows can look at it later, but I can see the treatment that they want.
Well, Ms. Fellows needs to review it in order to provide some guidance to the court. And so that's
okay.
She needs to look at it.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
All right. All right. So we'll put this over 2 weeks. Let me, I don't know if I have it up here. We go. Just a minute.
It looks like May 31st.
Okay. So we'll put that aspect over to May 31. Ms. Looney, are you prepared to discuss child support?
I am, Your Honor, but I also did get late information regarding Mr. Kiyoshi's income information. I can give the court a verbal recitation, or if you prefer, we can set both matters over those 2 weeks so I can get everything in writing out to everyone.
Well, I haven't seen any proposed orders in the file, and I typically would review those.
Yes, Your Honor, we didn't make proposed orders simply because this review of child support was ordered by Your Honor prior to us getting involved in the case. And we were just going to make an order based on what you ordered in the hearing. But I can get updated worksheets out to everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like in Vaughn versus Kiyoshi that we need to put everything over to May 30. So I want.
The father did provide financial documents and things like that. Apparently they were filed on the 15th. Did you get copies of those, Ms. Looney?
I did. Yes, he did deliver those to us on Monday. So I have reviewed those. That information would change our original proposed worksheets.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Ms. Vaughn, any objection to putting this over?
I have no objection to putting it over, but I know last hearing we had talked about proper service, and you had told him he needs to serve it to my sister across town, and he did not do that again this time. He left all my documents with Beth. So again, I just want to reiterate proper service because it then took me another day to get everything from Beth.
Service needs to be at the sister's house. We went over that. Okay. All right. We'll see everybody back here on May 31.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next up, Alexandria Vaughn and Mr. Kiyoshi. I see there are a number of people looking on who are interested in this case.
You got this.
So we're here to address child support and to check in with the GAL and to look at how visitation's going. Let me turn it over to Ms. Looney first, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Your Honor. So back in November of 2022, Your Honor did state that you wanted to review child support in 6 months. That was prior to the state being involved. And at that time you had set child support at $700 per month based on worksheets you had from Ms. Vaughn. So we had not seen any information in the file in Odyssey from either parent. So we did submit worksheets previously in March. And we'd have since then gotten some additional information from Mr. Kiyoshi about his current employment and his current rate of pay. So we did submit new worksheets that are proposed for the court to consider. The state doesn't have a specific interest regarding the amount of child support that's paid. We do want to have the incomes as accurate as we can have them under the law so that we have accurate percentages for the parents to be responsible for uninsured medical expenses as well as any daycare or childcare expenses. So the current worksheet that we have presented for consideration shows that Mr. Kiyoshi makes a gross income each month of $4,868 and his net income is $3,491. We do have Ms. Vaughn at full-time at her current rate of pay. She has indicated to the court previously that she cannot work full-time because of childcare expenses, but because that will be part of today's order, the state is imputing her at full-time at her current rate of pay because childcare expenses is not a reason for deviation under the law. So we have her income at a gross of $2,642 with a net of $2,323. So the resulting payment that we have for child support for Mr. Kiyoshi to Ms. Vaughn comes to $622. So we're leaving it up to the court's discretion on whether or not you would change from the 700 to the 622, but that is the information that we have currently.
Okay. Let's just focus on child support now. Mr. Kiyoshi, any response?
You're cut out. I cannot hear you.
It might help if you turn your video off.
Can everybody hear me now? Okay. Mr. Kiyoshi?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any response to the, I guess, child support worksheets? It looks like your basic child support obligation would be $622 under the current worksheet. Any comment on that?
No, Your Honor, I have bills and I was able to get my paperwork in and Ms. Looney looked at it and I guess that's who came out to 622. I have no objections to that.
Okay. Ms. Vaughn, any response?
Yes. So yeah, they're imputing me at full time, which I understand. It's not the cost of childcare that's the problem. It's my availability to it. Like I've said, I only have one person who can care for Corey and she also works. So I have to work around her schedule in order to work. This affects the proportional share percentages because it then raises my amount and drops his. It also doesn't cover the fact that I am paying for childcare, which I'm paying $200 a month for that is not included here. It also, I understand, doesn't go over the fact that his dad pays for health insurance. I do not know what he pays for the premium just for Corey, which I would need to know. I had talked to the child support office and told them that I would happily put in a proposed worksheet that reflects all of these aspects. I just don't have that information from his father on how much the premium is for the healthcare, which again is what Ms. Looney is saying. They're mostly concerned about that in the child care part of it. Oh my gosh, can't talk. So if his dad is able to get me like copies of the premiums that he's paying, what portion is just Corey's versus his as well, I can happily put in a new proposed worksheet along with a new child support order.
Are you able to provide the medical premiums, Mr. Kiyoshi?
I was under the understanding that I would turn in all my pay stubs and that Department of Child Support Services would figure all that math out. I don't know what she's talking about. And I'd also like to add that she is getting state assisted. So I think the $622 in her is fair on my part. I do pay to drive down there a week. I pay for gas. I pay for the visits. I pay for the food. I still buy him toys because I want us to play and have a good time. I don't understand. I think I think where we're at is good.
Okay.
He is under my medical insurance. I think that's all that matters is that he's got medical insurance and it's under, and I'm providing that.
Okay. All right. I did order that within 6 months we would relook at child support because Mr. Kiyoshi's employment was somewhat in flux and we didn't know exactly what he would be earning. Now we do, and it ended up in a bit of a drop in the child support to $622. I think the worksheets are properly addressed. And so I'm going to order that child support beginning in June be $622 a month.
So, Your Honor, then I would need to submit the child support order, which accounts for the child care portion separate, because it's not included in this worksheet.
That's true. Is that something you're paying? You've been paying on your own?
I've been paying this whole 2.5 years.
Okay. Are you asking that Mr. Kiyoshi contribute to that?
Did he pay his proportional share? Yes.
Your Honor, the state would draft worksheets, which would include the proportional share requirement.
Okay.
We'll draft an order and send it out to the parties.
How long do you think that will take?
In order to make sure that they have a chance to review it, we would just ask to set it out for 2 weeks for presentation.
And that would be the 14th. All right, we'll see if we need to go longer on some other issues here, then we'll address that. All right, Ms. Fellows, have you received a domestic violence evaluation at this point?
Yes, Your Honor. I had received it the day prior of our last hearing, but I didn't have a chance to review it. Or actually, I think I received it the day of. Yes, I have reviewed it. He is recommended, Mr. Kiyoshi is recommended for treatment, 26 weeks. A few things out of the assessment summary. Summary of the participant's level of accountability. Mr. Kiyoshi is assessed at having a low level of accountability. The motivations and readiness to change. He is in the pre-contemplation state of change. Assessment of the degree of abusive cognitive and behavioral patterns. Mr. Kiyoshi would benefit from the core requirements of a domestic violence program with specific emphasis on types of abuse, belief systems, respectful relationships, accountability, motivations for abuse, cognitive distortions, and indicators for using abuse and violence. The rationale and recommended level of treatment. Mr. Kiyoshi's interview and supporting documents indicate power and control seeking behaviors and a pattern of abusive behavior. He would benefit most from trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy and level 1 domestic violence intervention treatment program, which includes 1 treatment session attendance per week for 26 weeks. Individual sessions may be submitted or added in addition to the minimum required sessions as needed. His treatment completion will be based, excuse me, on compliance with his treatment contract and successfully meeting, excuse me, treatment criteria and core competencies as outlined in his treatment plan. And it is also required and recommended for another kind of parenting classes. It's called a 12-week parenting program that focuses on the effects on children that witness domestic violence. So that is what came of the DV evaluation. So I'm not exactly sure when he plans on getting into treatment, starting the treatment and the 12-week parenting class. I would like to see him be at least, I would say, halfway through the DV treatment and halfway through, if not completed, the 12-week parenting program, parenting class, because the child was a witness to these DV incidents. I think it's really important that Mr. Kiyoshi gain an understanding of domestic violence and how it affects his child, and hopefully learn some different parenting skills. At this point, I'm not recommending any changes to the visitation until he does get into those classes. I also do have another issue, is that he has not fully paid for the GAL fees. I have brought this to the attention of court. I have emailed him numerous times now, reminding him about making payments for his balance. He does come down here to Longview for his visitation on Tuesdays. I have let him know he can drop off the payments. I have not gotten any response. At this point, last week I emailed him and said, I need you to pay your balance in full, which is $550. He did not answer that email. He did not come by yesterday or make a payment. So I've been putting a lot of hours and time into this matter, and Mr. Kiyoshi hasn't paid his portion. So I'm concerned about that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kiyoshi, why don't I hear from you first, and then I'll hear from Ms. Vaughn.
Yes, Your Honor. So, and I'm sure so she just told you what the treatment plan was. I did file my notes from all the supervised visits except the last two because they hadn't been typed out yet. I feel the visits have been going good. I have no interaction with Alexandria other than on our family wizard, but we haven't even talked on that because we have such a set schedule of the supervised visits on Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays is my FaceTime visits. I have no problem with the treatment if that's the court wants, if that's what the court wants me to do. I'm willing to do that. I'm still asking for unsupervised visits. Not once since the protection order has been put up have I broken it or tried to get a hold of Alexandria outside of what Corey's times were for visits. I'm not trying to go close to her. I can stay away. Like I've stated before, you can keep the protection order up on her. Reading the notes from our visits, we have a good time when me and Corey are together. We have a relationship. And outside of that, I'm not interacting with his mom. And I've respected that protection order, and I will continue to respect it. I have no need to go near her, and I'm not trying to. I just want to be able to raise my son, and I've said this before. I'm not trying to just pay child support and not be able to take him out to the park. His cousins ask about him. We have, family gatherings that I can't even bring my kid to those. I can do the treatment if that's what the court wants, but I want supervised visits. I want him to be able to see his cousins. I want them to get to know each other and be close. I've done everything that court has asked. I'm not out here not trying to be I'm not going to be made to look like a bad father. I want to take care of my own son.
Okay.
I've done what the court has asked, and now I got another 26 weeks, and then on top of that, the 12 weeks of the parenting classes, which if that's what the court wants me to take, I'll take. But I'm just about to be done with my monthlies next week.
Done with your
the monthlies for the AA.
Okay.
Our last group meeting is next week. So I have no problem trying to find whatever classes I need to do next. It's frustrating. It's been 9 months since this all started. Not once have I gone near his mom. I don't plan on it. The visits have been going great. But another thing is when these supervised visits happen, we can't leave the room. So we're stuck in the room. I can't even take him to the park. It's just four walls, and I gotta find things to keep him entertained, which I have no problem with. But I want him to get out. I want to see him, in the park, running around, other kids playing with his cousins.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vaughn, any response?
Yes, so I agree with Beth that I don't like the idea of unsupervised until he's at least halfway through this DV and parenting class program. I do understand that he had said in the past that he did a parenting class, but this one is specific to our case, which is much more important. And even through what he just said at the moment, he's emphasizing how important his family involvement is with Corey, not his own. And he keeps saying that if the court wants him to do this treatment, he will. He's again not taking accountability into the fact that he needs these things, that he's done these things that have caused these issues. As far as him saying he has not violated, so say the protection order, no, the 1,000-foot radius thing was not in place until he showed up at my house twice, not once, but twice. So that is an issue. He, again, is downplaying that. And he is almost done with his treatment program, but he has it's felt like he's scathed by in that program, where he's done like bare minimum. He's got behind, he's almost got discharged twice, and then he's just caught it all up in 1 week. So there's an issue with consistency there still, which I am concerned about even going into this next set of treatment. I kind of want to see that he's actively keeping up on what the court has required of him, not that he's kind of doing bare minimum and sitting back and just hoping for the best and asking for more, that he's actually enthusiastic about doing these things because they do matter. They matter to our future, our son's future, what co-parenting looks like. The protection order is in place because he hasn't acknowledged that he has damaged our family and our relationship in these bonds by being domestically violent and having an alcohol issue. So I do agree with Beth when she said that she wants to see him about halfway through this treatment program successfully before considering unsupervised.
Right. All right. Ms. Fellows, first of all, would you mind emailing that evaluation to my email? I'd like to look at it.
Yes.
Can I also need
Are
a
you able
copy
to
of
do that? Okay.
I'm not sure if the mom has gotten a copy.
I have not been served a copy.
Okay. Or if you'd rather, you could file it with the court under seal. I don't know that would not get to Ms. Vaughn. I think Ms. Vaughn is entitled to look at it also. Okay.
So shall I email it to both of you?
That would be fine. So let me start here. I've read the visit notes regarding the supervised visits, and they are glowing, if anything. Mr. Kiyoshi shows up with a new set of toys every time he engages. Corey enjoys seeing him. Corey doesn't like it when Mr. Kiyoshi leaves and they have to be separated. So I want to acknowledge that. I've read that. That is extremely encouraging to me. And I'm going to keep that in mind going forward. I am going to order that Mr. Kiyoshi complete the treatment that's recommended in the domestic violence evaluation. And I'm going to order that he attend the parenting class. Those could be done at the same time if you have the time. They don't necessarily have to be done one after the other. I'm not going to order unsupervised visits at this point, but I think we're getting very close to that point. And I I know we've had some hiccups along the way. Ms. Vaughn's statements are correct that there were some issues with compliance with the treatment, but those worked themselves out. And from where we sit today, Mr. Kiyoshi has done, as far as I can tell, everything that this court has asked of him, and I appreciate that. And again, the current visits, the supervised visits are going very well. So I'm going to leave the supervised visits in place just as they are. And again, through those, it looks like Mr. Kiyoshi is very conscientious about making sure he has no contact with Ms. Vaughn. And so continue to do that unless it looks like you are communicating or can through the parenting app that you have. I'm going to set this out a month, and I'm expecting at that time, Mr. Kiyoshi will be checked into the treatment that's recommended and perhaps the parenting class. I'd like to read more notes of his visits with Corey and then see if we make any kind of move at that time. Okay. All right. So
I had one more thing to add, Your Honor.
let me just state that date is going to be June 28th. And I think, why don't we put the child support orders over to that date also. So we'll do everything on June 28th. Okay, Mr. Kiyoshi, go ahead.
So we have our supervised visitation set on Tuesdays. For the month of June, I do have a schedule change for the month where I'd be off on weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. So if we can schedule the visits to that, if his mom would be all right with that.
Facility provide for that?
No.
I don't know if the facility.
Sorry, Your Honor. I know that Parents Place is not available for weekend visits.
So you work 5 days a week then, weekdays?
Yes, for June. And then I'll go right back to my old schedule. So we just got to figure out if there's a place where we could do visits on Saturdays or Sundays, and then I do that. I just wanted to put it out there so the court knows that I have a schedule change.
Your Honor, I think the previous supervisor that we were going through, Barbara Brandhorst, she was doing Sunday mornings. If maybe we could get back in contact with her for this month.
And you'd be agreeable to Sunday mornings?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think we might even allow more than 2 hour window as well. I do think it makes sense to up his parenting time if it's a possibility, but I knew with Parents Place schedule that wasn't an option. But if Barbara is willing to do 3 hours, I would be happy with that as well.
All right. Mr. Kiyoshi, do you have a way to get a hold of Ms. Brandhorst?
Yeah, I do. I think I could get a hold of her, but I'm gonna try to find something else just because that was 100. Right now I'm paying 50 an hour. At the first visitation facility, they were charging 100 an hour, and I can't afford that.
Okay.
I believe Barbara was $50 an hour, and a Parents Place is $25 an hour.
Is it? Okay.
All right, Mr. Kiyoshi, I'm going to leave it to you to get a hold of Ms. Brandhorst.
Okay.
Sounds like Sunday will work, and it sounds like more time will work, and I'm in favor of all of that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll be back here on June 28th. If there's some glitch, I guess, in the supervised visits, you can note this for a hearing before June 28th so we can address it. But I'm hoping everybody can work together to make this work. Okay.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, please.
the GAL fees that the father owed, $550.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't address that earlier. Mr. Kiyoshi, any comment on that? That needs to be paid.
It will be paid, Your Honor. I have a lot of bills. I thought we just got the child support set up, but I guess it's not finalized yet. I'll pay. I'll get it paid.
All right, I would like that paid by the next time we get together, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you both. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Let me jump into the digital file here. Let's see, and do I have Ms. Vaughn present?
Yes.
Good morning, Ms. Vaughn. Thank you for being
Morning.
here. And Mr. Kiyoshi?
Yes, ma'am.
There you are. I have there's so many people. I have two Zoom screens, so making sure I can find everyone here. There we go. Okay, so I believe orders were submitted. Ms. Looney, I do see the proposed temporary child support order. I'm just looking at the last notes when Commissioner Nelson saw you all. He at that time did adopt the proposed child support worksheet. And so my understanding, it was just set on today for presentation.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct? Okay. And then I also have a note that Mr. Kiyoshi was to pay the GAL fees by today's hearing. So just checking in to see if that's been accomplished.
Yes,
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
Honor. He did come by yesterday afternoon and he paid his portion in full.
Great. I appreciate that, Mr. Kiyoshi. Thank you for being timely with that.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me go through my stack of orders here. All right. So what I have in front of me is the temporary child support order. And as I understand it, Commissioner Nelson did already approve this. Is there any discussion or objections that I need to hear regarding this temporary child support order?
Yes. So I'm not 100% sure. She sent me the worksheets and the support order. So from what I'm understanding, looking at it, is that he would be paying $622 for child support, and then he would also be paying his proportional share of our childcare expenses, which would be $120 a month. But that is to be paid separate to me directly, not garnished through his wages.
And so are you objecting, or are you just asking a question? I'm trying to understand how I can help you.
Questions first. Is that how that works?
So I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me to answer for you.
Is he supposed to be paying the childcare expense to me directly versus going through DCS?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm not sure if I know the answer to that. Ms. Looney, do you know?
Your Honor, it can go either way. If they can work together to have him pay the proportional share directly, they can do that, or she can submit her receipts to DCS and they can help with collection on that amount.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn, do you have a preference how the two of you want to work on that?
So her audio was completely cut off for that, so I have no clue what she said.
So Ms. Looney, will you try again? And if not, then I'll reiterate.
Yes. So it can be either way, Your Honor. If they can work together and he can pay directly to her, they can do that. Or she can submit her receipts for the child care amounts to DCS, and then DCS can assist with collecting that amount.
Okay, so I would like it to go through DCS. It took him 7 months to pay Beth Fellows her GAL fees, and the only reason I've gotten child support is because it's been garnished at this point. He hasn't ever made any payments reliably on his own, so I'll do that.
And I'm just checking the order. I'm not, do I need to check anything specific in order to mandate that it be paid that way, Ms. Looney?
No, Your Honor. We would be looking at section 22. We put the person who pays the expense for that, simply because that's the only way DCS is able to assist. If it's paid directly to the service provider, then DCS is not able to assist the parent who's supposed to be receiving the payment in collection. So that's why it's marked as it is.
Great. And I do see that there. So Ms. Vaughn, Ms. Looney has filled out this form so that you are the one who receives payments for those expenses, and then it'll be your choice to go through DCS.
Okay.
Submit those receipts, okay? Any other questions or objections?
Yes.
I'll come to you in a second, Mr. Kiyoshi. Ms. Vaughn.
To the child support order, no.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kiyoshi, go ahead.
So, yes, so this hearing was set so we can settle the child support obligations. And from what Child Support Services is saying, nothing's changed from the last hearing, $622.
Yes.
The child care, he's already under my insurance. I don't see why I have to pay the child care. She's able to work a full-time job. She chooses not to work a full-time job. And then the babysitter is her sister, that's her roommate. I don't see why I need to put, I don't see why I need to help pay that bill. If she can work a full-time job, maybe it might make sense, but it's your sister at the end of the day, and you guys are roommates. You guys share the same bills.
And just, sir, just direct your statements to me rather than directly to her.
Yes, so that's my only concern is the child care. I don't see why I need to pay into that when she's choosing not to work a full-time job. It says she's worked 35 hours. She can work 40 hours. It's an extra 4 hours or an extra 5 hours. And then on top of that, it's her sister. I have family too that I would love for him to stay over with me, and I have babysitters I have family that can watch him.
During her time, is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
You're saying that you have people that would watch during her residential time?
Yes, so that's why we were here to settle the child support obligations, and then I wanted to push everything over until Commissioner David Nelson was actually here, because he's been with the case since it started.
Yep. So I can't give you that option currently. So what I can do is review his prior ruling, which does state specifically court adopts state's proposed worksheets with a transfer payment and set the review and presentation for 6/28/2023 at 9 a.m. My understanding is that he did rule on this. I have separately reviewed it based on the evidence in the case, including the GAL report and documentation received from all parties. I do find that the temporary child support order and worksheet are appropriate, given my independent review of the file and taking into account Mr. Nelson's oral ruling on May 31, 2023. I certainly understand your objection, but what I'm going to state in response is, while the child is in residential care with Ms. Vaughn, she will be in charge of deciding child care. I'm not going to take time away from her to have her bring a kid to you just because it might be a little bit cheaper. If she chooses to use her sister for child care, probably one of the safest people she could find rather than bringing a stranger in. And 35 hours a week with a lot of employers is full-time.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not going to find any merit to your objections at this time. I'm certainly also, though, not taking away your right to make these arguments at trial when you get to your request for full permanent orders, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I just want to make sure that it's known. I don't work full-time. I don't work 35 hours. The state imputes me at that for exactly what he's saying, that they don't see childcare as a reason to not be working full-time. I don't have full-time childcare. I work 3 days a week and I pay $200 a month for that. Yes, to my sister, or otherwise to my best friend, who is also my roommate. It's been discussed several times over the last several hearings that I do not work full time. They are imputing me at full time. So just that.
Absolutely understood. And again, I'm not taking away anyone's ability to argue these issues for your full orders. I think that the written materials that I'm relying upon in signing these orders temporarily support that these orders are appropriate. Anything else we need to do on this case? I only have the child support orders. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any other orders that needed to be reviewed today.
I do believe, Your Honor, this is the GAL, is that we were to also look at whether or not the father had started engaging in the domestic violence treatment.
Okay.
As well as potentially visitation. My understanding, he has completed the evaluation. There are treatment is recommended, but at this point in time, my understanding is that he has not started engaging in that treatment.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. I do also see that in the clerk's notes from the last hearing of May 31st. So yes, at that time, Mr. Nelson did rule that you were to complete recommended DV treatment and parenting classes. Until that occurred, the court was denying any unsupervised visitation. So Mr. Kiyoshi, what can you tell me about the status of those?
Yes, ma'am. So I started the 12-week parenting program. This is why I want to settle the child support and then just present everything to Commissioner David Nelson because he knows the case. But I have started my treatment, my 12-week parenting program, and the DV treatment, evaluation treatment is also set in motion. I found a place locally, but I paid the transfer fee to transfer the assessment to Olympia from Spanaway.
For the DV treatment, how much is recommended treatment time?
6 months. It's 6 months.
6 months
for the DV treatment, and then 12 weeks for the parenting program, the parenting club.
And forgive me if I didn't hear you correctly. Are you waiting to start both of those, or have you started?
So I've started the 12-week parenting program with Family Education and Support Services.
Okay.
The DV treatment, I did the assessment with alternative counseling, which was in Spanaway. I did research to see where I could get my treatment done and found a place here, also alternative counseling, but it's local, so I'm not driving the 5 every week to complete treatment. And that and I have an appointment on July 11th at 11 a.m. with Cynthia Norris to complete the intake process, and then they'll have me start on treatment Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay. Here's my thought, and I'll make sure this is something that Ms. Fellows agrees with in terms of we can actually do this. My thought is, I understand that you're requesting unsupervised visits. I wouldn't be inclined to grant that until we have a little more treatment under our belt, but I do appreciate that you're starting that process. You're taking the right steps. My thought is to set this over, and Ms. Fellows, are you able to access the treatment reports from those visits or not? I mean, because here's my thought is like, I would love to see progress updates that, you're in good compliance and the provider says you're engaging fully in treatment, taking responsibility and learning and those sorts of things. Ms. Fellows, what's your thought?
Yes, I was going to request that the father sign the appropriate releases of information so that I can access that information, compliance reports, and talk to his provider as needed to get those updates. At this point, yes, those are things that need to be and this has been, I will admit, a very long process. I was appointed in September of last year. This treatment and evaluation and everything else has been ordered for many, many months now. So it's great to see Mr. Kiyoshi is starting to move forward. But we also need to have some of those at least a couple of months in treatment before looking at changing the visitation.
So, thank you, Ms. Fellows. I appreciate that. Mr. Kiyoshi, I do think if you want me to, or a commissioner or judge to re-review visitation, I would make a request that you sign a release of information for those compliance progress notes to Ms. Fellows so that she can make a recommendation to the court when this comes back on. So my thought is to have you do that, and then we set this for review about 2 months out and see where we're at, and we can readdress whether a change in any visitation should occur at that time. What's your thought, Mr. Kiyoshi?
I've done everything the court has asked me, and I'm continuing to do what the court has asked me. Not once since the protection order has been put up have I gone near her. I just want to be able to raise my son. And I keep saying this and I keep repeating myself, but I'm not heard.
Well, I'm hearing you. I'm also taking into account that professionals have recommended 6 months of DV treatment and parenting classes for you. So I am not, without seeing compliance reports, I am not comfortable changing visitation. So what I am offering you is the option to sign an ROI. Ms. Fellows would then get access to your compliance reports to make sure that, hey, this treatment is doing the things we want it to do, which is helping you be a better parent. And then we come back in 2 months and we can revisit this issue. So I am hearing you. I want to assure you we're taking this in steps and follow those steps. And I think in the end, you're going to get where you want to be. We just need to follow the steps. So I am going to reset this to August 23rd at 9 a.m. if that works for the parties.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry, August 27th?
23rd.
Sorry, okay. 23rd.
And what I'll note, depending on which commissioner is hearing it at that time, what I will just specifically note is that what we're going to be looking for is there an ROI in place for Ms. Fellows? Has she received any compliance reports? And kind of what is her take on visitation based on those compliance reports with treatment? Okay. And certainly, Ms. Vaughn, you will be able to state any objections or agreements to any changes in visitation. We would not do it unilaterally. You will still have very much a say in this. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else on this case we need to address?
In the meantime, he does get one virtual visit per week, which is typically Wednesdays at 6. So if he's going to be having treatments Wednesdays from 6 to 8, I'm not sure how we could work around a video visit.
Mr. Kiyoshi, do you need to move the date and time of the video visits?
Yes, that's simple, Your Honor. I can do my treatment and I can call him after. Let's not be difficult here.
What time is treatment over?
8.
How will that, so let me just ask Ms. Vaughn, I don't know what kiddos, sleep schedule is during weeks. Are we running into any issues where we need to set it to a different date or?
Well, we can't do any other days of the week because he only has Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, and Tuesdays he has his in-person visits.
I work a full-time job.
he's almost 3 years old. His schedule varies. Sometimes he crashes early, sometimes he stays up a little later. I can do my best to try to have him up and still in a good mood by 8 p.m., but I can't promise that every week it will go that smoothly.
Certain, I think that's very understandable. And I'll just put in the minutes right now that the parties did discuss that the 6 o'clock time will no longer be feasible. The parties are going to work together to use a different time on the same date that the court has ordered. If this becomes a problem, I will issue a new order when we meet in August. Okay, so.
And we do
Go ahead. Oh, Ms. Vaughn, you froze just briefly if you want to start over.
In the past to call.
Ms. Vaughn, why don't you turn off your video? I think you're having a bandwidth issue. Just turn off your video and just try to use the audio. And then there you go. We still can't hear you. Can you try speaking?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I said that we do have our family wizard set up per Commissioner Nelson in the past, so we are able to discuss visitation. I know there's been a few Wednesdays he's asked to call before 6 p.m., which might be a little bit easier than after his treatment.
Yeah, I think it sounds like perhaps you two have a bit of a history of working on within that same day for the video calls. So I'm just going to have you continue that. So video calls need to remain on that specific day. And then if you want to use the app to coordinate that time, I think that's very appropriate. Sounds like you've been doing this in the past, so I'm not going to issue a formal order to that effect. But again, I will review whether we need a formal order when we meet in August if this becomes a problem. Okay. But thank you both for working together on that. I think, treatment is a high priority, but so is maintaining those video visits. So I wish you both the best of luck in working with those two sometimes competing interests. Okay.
Number 10 on our docket, do I have Alexandria Vaughn and Zachary Kiyoshi present?
I'm
Here, Your Honor.
Okay. This is 223-0025-408.
And Beth Fellows, the guardian ad litem, is present as well.
Oh, great, Ms. Fellows, thank you. Okay. So when we were here on June 28, we did approve child support orders. We set review to August 23rd. My understanding was we'd be reviewing treatment progress and further visitation issues. So maybe I'll start with Ms. Fellows as the GAL to let me know where we're at.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I have not received any compliance reports from the father's DV treatment or the parenting class. I did call this morning up to alternative counseling.
Okay.
And inquired about whether or not dad had signed an ROI, and they indicated he has not. And that was a big issue, that he was supposed to sign the ROI when we were in court last. So that way I could get compliance reports.
Mr. Kiyoshi, what can you tell me about release of information and any compliance with treatment?
I'm halfway through my parenting class, and for the ROIs, I did sign ROIs. I'm doing the DV treatment right now through Best Life Services. That's happening every Wednesdays, 5 to 6.
And then my parenting class I'm doing every Tuesday, 6 to 8, and that's with family education and support services. ROIs were signed. She is on the paperwork. I don't know why they haven't let her know that I'm in compliance. I've been taking the classes.
Okay. Ms. Fellows, were you aware of the places where he was doing those? I guess my concern is maybe he hadn't communicated that information.
No, he has not. I have not had any communication with the father. And when we were in court last, he did say that he was going to be in DV at alternative counseling in Olympia, which is who I called. So I had no idea that there was a different facility or provider, and have no idea who that parenting class is either. So there's no way for me to know and be able to contact them.
Completely understood. So Mr. Kiyoshi, I'm going to give you some homework before our next review date. And when I say that, I mean like do it this week, even if our review date's a few weeks out. Get a hold of Ms. Fellows and get her the names and your schedule, so the names of the agencies and your schedule for the parenting and the DV courses. That way she can actually contact the correct agency that you're getting treatment through. And if you have signed those ROIs for her, then she can get those records and we'll review it when we're together again. So we'll set a date here in just a minute on that. So that'll be your homework, but keep going to the classes. It sounds like you are enrolled. That's all good news. So keep doing what you're doing on that front. Do we need to address visitation right now, or how is that working? And I'll turn to you, Ms. Vaughn.
So as of right now, I don't feel comfortable giving him any sort of unsupervised until we have those reports.
Correct.
Which was addressed last time and countless times before. We've been sitting here with just this DV issue since January. So it's really important to me that that is squared before we go any other direction. Right now, Tuesdays with his at a parent's place, his 2-hour visits are working just fine, and it doesn't really affect either of our schedules too much. The calls on Wednesday nights still haven't been going great. Like they've just not been good for a few months now, but what can you do? I guess I'm kind of tired of repeating myself over and over about how the video calls have tanked in quality over the months. So I'm just kind of doing them.
Yeah. And do you mean Mr. Kiyoshi and how he's relating to child or to you, or what do you mean when deteriorating?
It's only with child. And so like for an example, since you weren't here back when this all began, there was like the month of December where he did really well, like exceeded expectations with visitation. He was finding toys that he knew my son had the same ones of in our home and would play with him, interact through the phone that way. And the calls would be 30+ minutes long, sometimes up to an hour, when he was only necessarily supposed to be given 15 minutes. So I was very happy to report back then when things were going super well. He'll do this thing where he'll do good for a little bit and then it'll tank. And it just seems like it hasn't picked back up. Most of these calls now have been like maybe 5 minutes at best. He called my son a few weeks ago from the river even. And I was like, that's kind of rude to show my kid that he's missing out on this fun with you because you're not doing what you need to do to have him unsupervised. And I mean, he's about to be 3 years old in just a few weeks. So he doesn't really comprehend that, but he will eventually. And these are the kind of things that it's supposed to be a distraction-free environment for both him and I with this visit, and it just hasn't been.
Mr. Kiyoshi, what do you want to say about the video visits?
So I've been saying this since the court allowed video visitations. I can't get good quality time with my son, and that's been a problem since we started the FaceTime videos. I do it because the court allows me to do it. But now that I have 2 hours every week, which is still not enough to have quality time with him, he'd rather have me spend time in person with him than over a camera where I'm asking him what he's doing. He's running around. I understand that. I mean, I'm grateful for the FaceTime visits, but there's not there's not a whole lot I can do over a camera. And I've been saying this since the beginning.
So, I guess, Mr. Kiyoshi, are you asking to continue with video visits?
Yeah, because it's the only way I can see him for now.
Okay.
So yeah, the quality isn't good, but he gets to see my face, and I want him to know me.
So I'm going to be really clear. We're going to set a review date. I'm not going to change any in-person visitation. It's going to stay as is with supervised because I don't have any of those reports right now. Let's set you all to September 27 at 9 a.m. And that's a little more than a month out so that Ms. Fellows can get those reports and have a chance to digest them. When we come back, we can talk about what that compliance looks like. When we come back on the 27th as well, I would like to, as Ms. Vaughn noted, I have not been the judicial officer on this case for a very long time, so I don't know a lot of the history with the video visits. I'm not going to issue an order on them, but what I am going to say, Mr. Kiyoshi, is it behooves you to make those as productive and comforting to the child as possible. I understand it's not your preferred method of engagement, but it's still very meaningful to the child, no doubt. So I would like to, when we come back, and you know, an idea I had is, why don't you maybe Google some ideas of things you can do with a kid over video calls, have games that you can perhaps play with the child when you're engaging over video, so it doesn't have to be mundane. So just try to get creative and make it as effective as possible. When we come back on the 27th, we'll revisit how video visitation is working in conjunction with the other compliance notes we review. Okay?
Yeah, sure. And I had one more question.
Go ahead.
Is there any way I can get this, Beth Fellows can reach out, or I can reach out to whoever I'm getting this treatment from, so she can get an update on everything, so that maybe I might be able to see him and have him for his birthday, which is coming up next month?
So what
I've missed his first 2 birthdays. I'm not trying to miss this one.
What day is his birthday?
September 23rd.
I won't be able to get you in for a review. Ms. Vaughn, is there any thought to allowing any sort of supervised visitation on his birthday at least, or what's your thought?
So actually, his birthday has been an issue the last 2 years, and not because of this. This has been the first year that it's actually gone well, because of the fact that we've had this separation between us. There isn't any place that will do visits on Saturdays here. I have his party already fully planned out, everything set for his party. The first year he showed up here from Colorado, like unannounced, unwelcomed. He had the whole DV thing had just happened. He abandoned me and my son. It was a big issue, and he showed up and literally ruined my son's first birthday, completely yelling about the birthday.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna say, Mr. Kiyoshi. I understand. I'm keeping your review date September 27th. Unfortunately, that's not going to work out for review before the birthday. The best I can say is the closest supervised visit you have to his birthday, make that your birthday time with him. That's the best I can offer given the history of this case as I'm reviewing it, okay? Maybe we'll be in a different position going forward after one. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, so one more thing, sorry.
I have to move on. You guys have your court date for September 27th at 9 a.m. And then Mr. Kiyoshi, please do reach out to Ms. Fellows with the names of the agencies so that she can get those reports for our next hearing, okay?
Okay, can I just ask one more question?
Quickly.
Quick, it's gonna be quick. So the next closest visitation I have, can I bring my nieces so they can see their cousin? It's still a supervised visitation.
Is it professionally supervised right now?
Yes, I drive to Kelso.
Do they allow that? I just don't know. Yeah, here's what I would recommend, Mr. Kiyoshi. Reach out to the supervisor and ask them
I'm not gonna make a ruling on that because I just don't know what their policies are.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you both. We'll see you back on the 27th. Thank you, Ms. Fellows.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna go to number 13. This is Alexandria Vaughn and Zachary Kiyoshi. I believe Ms. Fellows is on this one.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, let me just pull this up. I have this on for a review hearing for compliance of treatment and video visits. When we were together last, I did leave visitation, kind of status quo. Maybe first I'll turn to Ms. Fellows to fill me in on where we are at, and then I'll turn to the parties.
Yes, Your Honor, I have some great news to share. I'm thrilled to say that the father is fully in compliance with his DV treatment and with his parenting class. He started DV on 8/16, and he has made sure that his provider is providing me with compliance reports. And then his parenting class, it's a 14-week parenting class. He started on 6/27. It is an MRT curriculum, moral recognition therapy. And it sounds like that's going really well. He had a session last night, and his provider emailed me saying that he was present and he's doing extremely well. Both providers are saying that he is engaging, participating, and doing the homework and things like that. So I am exceptionally thrilled to share that with the court, and would say kudos to Dad, to Mr. Kiyoshi. Regarding the visit, my understanding is that they continue going well. The supervised visits at parents' place, they continue going well. And I have some thoughts about trying to move forward with the visitation. I would like to see at this stage some unsupervised visits. I am wanting them to be somewhat restricted still, but be allowed to be unsupervised. So I would, my thought is to basically do the 2 hours on Tuesdays, basically same time, because that seems to work for both parties, and have that unsupervised. That he provide me, the GAL, with an itinerary of where he's going to be during the visitation. So that way I could potentially do a drop by, just kind of observe and things like that. And do that for a period of time. He did just start DV treatment in August, so he's about a month and a half into it. So we'd like to see a little bit more. But I would think, my thought was, is that that's a good starting point. And would like to basically see increases probably at a pretty good forward motion, since he is in treatment and we are moving forward. So that's my thought.
Well, I think overall, Mr. Kiyoshi, that's great news. So thank you for putting in that work. Ms. Vaughn, let me first ask you, obviously, this is kind of a step-by-step process. How are you feeling about the recommendation to allow the 2 hours on Tuesdays to go unsupervised with itinerary given to GAL for now?
So we already use our family wizard. It was ordered previously by Commissioner Nelson. So I think that I should also receive an itinerary of where they're going to be, just so I have tabs on my child. That way they're not just, because if he wants to leave, say my kid doesn't want to spend more than 30 minutes at one place.
Can you speak up? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry. We already have communication through our family wizard in regards to Corey. So I think the itinerary, Beth has access to our family wizard as well, to our account. So if he can just put the itinerary to me and her on our family wizard, Then if anything happens, my kid maybe doesn't want to stay at this one place for 30 minutes. Maybe he's not having a good time there. Then he can communicate through that, letting us know if he's going to be moving places in real time, rather than calling one of us up saying, hey, he doesn't want to be here. What do I do? So as long as there's that communication, I don't have a big issue with it being unsupervised. We haven't really had very good communication in the past, so I would like to improve between the two of us. And in doing so, there was a previous bench order for no contact and all these things. I would like that to be lifted. Barring he continues his DV classes accordingly and whatnot, it shouldn't need to come back into place. I want to see that we can communicate for the sake of our child going forward as well. And I do agree that I think 2 hours is reasonable, unsupervised. Same, it doesn't have to be from 11 to 1 on Tuesdays. I'm free all day Tuesday. So time-wise, it would be up to him. However, I do feel it should still be restricted as well, meaning I don't think he should be allowed to bring any guests or family members to these visits for at least a little period of time so we can see how he does with Corey on his own.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to Ms. Fellows in just a minute. Mr. Kiyoshi, you've heard the GAL's recommendations to, through our next review date, at least. And like I said, this is step by step, but at least through our next review date, given the good work that you're doing, go change your Tuesdays to unsupervised time instead of supervised. I think at this stage, and this will not last forever, but at this stage, I think that the court would be inclined to have you send the itinerary through our family wizard so everyone can see it. Are you in agreement with that?
Yes, that works for me. So I mean, I do have one question though.
Yes.
So if I want, so I can't bring my niece, his cousins to play with them. I understand there's a no contact order. I'm never gonna be near her. I'm there to see my son and my son only.
Yeah.
I don't see why I can't bring his cousins to see him or other family to see him. As long as I stay away.
Yeah, here would be my recommendation. So I'm looking at a bench order from March 3rd. And honestly, I haven't looked to see, do you all have a standalone no contact order as well? Or was it just Commissioner Nelson's bench order?
Just the bench order.
Okay, so it sounds like Ms. Vaughn wants that no contact to end, correct? You want that. So right now the bench order states that service of documents have to go to the sister's house and that Mr. Kiyoshi is not to come within 1,000 feet of your home, your vehicle, or your workplace. Are you wanting both of those conditions to be dropped?
Yes.
Okay. I think that, so Mr. Kiyoshi, there would not be that no contact in place any further at the request of the petitioner. Okay. So what I would be inclined to do just until our next review date is to, per the GAL's recommendations, change your Tuesdays to unsupervised visits until our next review date. I would say for the benefit of your relationship with the child, just have it be the two of you. I don't think bringing in additional family members while you're reestablishing this unsupervised time would be a great idea anyway. And then when we have our next review date, we can talk about implementing other family members back into the relationship. Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah, that's fine, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Fellows, I can do bench orders to that effect. Is there anything else you would want to see in those orders or to address today with the parties? And then we can set a new review date.
I am in total agreement of it just being the father and son, that it is really needs to continue just to be the two of them, especially going unsupervised out into the community and stuff like that. So it will be really different for dad to really interact with his son and things like that himself. There is also the issue of the exchange point. I had talked to the mom and she suggested Youth and Family Link There's a parking lot there. And that would be a good place for them to do the exchange. And with the protection order from that bench order dropped, then they should be able to do that.
Okay. And did you say it's called Youth and Family Link?
Yes.
Okay. Do you both know where that is?
Yes.
I do not, and I'm assuming it's in Kelso. Is there any way we can make the drop-off point halfway between Olympia and Kelso?
So part of the going unsupervised that I discussed with Beth was that he stay in the Kelso Longview, Cowlitz County city limits.
Yeah. Mr. Kiyoshi, you've been coming to Kelso for the supervised visits, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I do think that makes sense. I do think at least until our next review date that you should remain in the Kelso Longview area for those visits. And then the Youth and Family Link, I can get an address for that for you all and put it in my bench order.
It's 907 Douglas Street.
Oh, go ahead, speak. You're soft again. Go ahead and speak up.
907 Douglas Street. It's on the same exact road that goes to a parent's place almost, just further back before you take the turn.
And that's Longview, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that address in there. So I will create a bench order that incorporates these elements. It does lift the no contact. It allows unsupervised visits. It indicates that the itinerary, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to, if the itinerary says at 2 o'clock, we're going to be at Papa Pete's, and then at 2:30, we're going to Target, but Target happened at 2:50. I'm not going to be so militant about the timing, but more or less just that overall 2 hours, please be where you say that you are with the child. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then let's set a review date. Are we thinking maybe about a month out? Because then we'll get new progress reports for DV and parenting.
Can we do November 8th by chance?
That works for me, because by then we'll certainly have September and October's compliance reports with treatment. So Mr. Kiyoshi, does November 8th work for you?
That works.
Okay. And Ms. Fellows?
Yes, that works for me.
Okay. So we'll do November 8th at 9 a.m., same docket, and I'll get that bench order like I told other parties. Today is a busy day, so I may not get it done today, but I should have that in your court file by Friday.
Your Honor, it just slipped my mind. I do have a vacation I'm taking, and I'm going to be gone from the 8th to it's going to be a week, 8th to the, I think, 16th.
16th.
Yes.
So that would put us into, or do we have docket the day before?
Can we do it at the end of November?
We do it on the 22nd. So that we could put you to November 22nd. That's the day before Thanksgiving. I don't know if both of you would be free.
I can do that, Your Honor.
I can also do that. And then I had one other matter I wanted to address.
Ms. Fellows, would that work for you?
Yes, it does, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, Ms. Vaughn, go ahead.
So at the beginning of all this over a year ago, I had one specific request. His father has possession of a box of mugs. I know that sounds silly, but they are my late father's. And I asked for him to locate them and have them returned to me multiple times, which he said he would work on, and it hasn't happened. So I would like to get that back if that's possible.
I don't have anything in front of me about this. I believe you when you say you requested it. I know your case has been going on since well before I was involved. Mr. Kiyoshi, is this something that you know about and something that you have?
She's asked about it. I gotta find the mugs. I moved up here pretty quickly, so my son is what I'm here for. I'm not here for mugs.
So see if you can find those. It's in the clerk's minutes now. So maybe when we're back on the 22nd, the two, and because the no contact is now dropped, the two of you can have some communication about that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, Honor.
All right. Thank you both. Keep up the good work. You're doing all the right things, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Then let me also ask, before I start going through my cases, kind of oldest to newest, are there any matters where parties expect to request continuances, setovers, or more time to respond?
Yes, Your Honor. This is Beth Fellows on the Vaughn Kiyoshi matter. This was actually set for the 11/22 docket for a review. I'm not exactly sure. I think on the bench order, you wrote in 10/25, but that's not what's in the clerk's minutes, nor is it what's in my notes.
So I did review this beforehand. Let's call that matter 223-0025-408.
I just needed.
And do I have the parties present? Do I have Zach Kiyoshi and Alexandria Vaughn?
I'm here, Your Honor. I don't know. I don't think Alexandria is here.
I was like, oh, gee.
Let me just look on my other Zoom screen here. Do we have Alexandria? Okay, so I actually did review this. I had set today for a review date just to check in because we changed visitation. But I do note our subsequent hearing date. Let me just open up the file here.
Oh.
I think that our let's see, the review hearing 11/22/2023, we'll just leave that in place. But I had set today as a review just because we had at the last hearing allowed unsupervised visitation, which was new. So I was wanting a sooner review. But I don't see Ms. Vaughn here. So Ms. Fellows, unless you think there's an immediate emergency issue we need to address, we'll go ahead and just strike today and keep the November 22nd review.
That sounds good, Your Honor. I'm not seeing any issues or hearing of any issues. So striking this matter and just reviewing it on 11/22 sounds great.
Okay. Mr. Kiyoshi, anything you need to address with the court?
Yeah, I was tracking on the hearing in November, but I got paperwork saying there would be a hearing today, and I wanted to ask if I could get more time. I didn't know if she was tracking on this hearing or not, but that's what I was going to bring up today.
Okay.
Is that the 2 hours is not enough? It's getting cold, and me staying in Kelso, there's not a whole lot for us to do indoors.
Okay. So what I'll say is, because she's not here, it's not something I could rule on. If you want to bring a motion and cite this in before November 22nd, you are welcome to do that.
Yes,
or you could file a motion and we could address it on November 22nd. I would maybe reach out to Ms. Fellows if you want to talk about that too, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Looney, anything right now that the state needs on this case?
No, Your Honor, but I was going to address the court on a separate case once we're done here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kiyoshi, you can log out. Thank you, Ms. Fellows.
Okay, number 3 on our docket, 223-0025-408, Alexandria Vaughn and Zachary Kiyoshi. I believe Ms. Fellows is present with us.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm just going to get into my digital file here. So a question I have for the parties, I know we did change visitation at our last appearance. How is that going?
Who do you want to hear from first?
Ms. Vaughn, go ahead.
Okay, so the very first week of visits, I obviously had a lot of anxiety about him being with his father unsupervised for the first time, and he had provided a kind of vague itinerary, but at pickup or drop off, I should say, I asked him to specify locations, like places, rather than a park kind of thing. And he had said he would be at the park across from the Youth and Family Link building, which is Vandercook Park, or not Vandercook, Victoria Freeman Park, I believe. So when he was supposed to be there, I had called my sister who lives across the street and asked her to check outside to see if Corey was out there with his dad. And she said that no one was there. That proceeded for the entirety of the visit. He never showed up at that park like he was supposed to be at. When I picked my son up, I asked him what he did with daddy today, and he had said, "No, I don't want to tell you, mommy." My kid has never done that.
Okay, well, hold on, just a second. Hold on, ma'am, just real quick. Given the age of this child, we're walking into child hearsay. So I'm not going to accept it. You haven't, hold on. You haven't filed a declaration about any of this.
So I called back.
Well, hold on. I'm trying to help you out here. I'm not going to hear what your child told you. That is child hearsay. I'm not taking that into account today.
Okay, he did tell me they went to a park, just not the one he was supposed to be at.
Okay. All right. Hold on, Ms. Vaughn. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to tell you when it's your turn to talk again, okay? I'm just going to be very specific. I did not put in my order that every second of the visit he had to tell you exactly where he was. All I wrote was that he had to give you a proposed itinerary. So other than your concern that you don't know every second of every minute where the child is at, how is visitation going?
I can't tell you. Beth was supposed to be doing drop-ins, and as far as I'm aware, she has not done any. So I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Kiyoshi, how are visitations going from your perspective?
They're going good, Your Honor. It takes me an hour to drive down, so I try to get there early to maximize the use of the 2 hours, and then have them back before. I try to have them back before 1 o'clock. But other than that, visits are good. There's only so much to do, and the weather's getting cold and wet. So we've been doing a lot of things indoors, and there's not a whole lot of kid-friendly things to do indoors between 11 a.m. and 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. So I did talk to, me and Beth Fellows had emailed each other about extending the time, and then me being able to take him out of Cowlitz County to be able to do more things, because it is getting wet and I can't take him to the park every time I see him because of the weather.
Ms. Vaughn, we had a hearing actually on this matter October 25th, and you weren't present. What happened?
I was never given notice that we had a hearing.
Well, Mr. Kiyoshi and Ms. Fellows were present, and it was in my order. And we actually set it at the September 27th hearing.
I was here that hearing then. I've never missed a hearing.
That's not what my notes show.
Ms.
Fellows.
25th.
I'll tell you.
Ms. Fellows, what's your take on our current review of visitation and the changes we've made?
So at this point, by all accounts, it sounds like it's going well. I have not done a drop-in. I actually had planned on doing one last week, but didn't realize that Dad was on vacation, so there wasn't a visit last week. But it seems like it's going well, and his itinerary was a little bit vague, and so I did email him and ask him to be more specific, and he has since then. So I haven't had any issues with that. Regarding compliance and services, I did get a compliance letter from his DV treatment provider. It's dated November 7th, says that he is in compliance. He has completed his parenting program as well. So there's no issues about that. So at this point in time, I did email the dad. I did reach out to him last week asking what he thought would be logical and reasonable as a next step for visitation. And he did respond. And he gave me, a good response. He does want like an 8-hour visitation. He wants to be able to go to his home area of Olympia, and he really wants to take Corey home. But I'm not comfortable with that because I have not yet done a home visit. We weren't at that point where I needed to do that. So after emailing with him, emailing mom, thinking about where we are, trying to be very logical about the next step, I let both parties know in an email yesterday or last evening that I would like to increase the visitation to 6 hours, go from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., that he can go out of Cowlitz County, but not to his home because I haven't done the home visit yet. The visit should remain only with him and his son because we're still working on the father-son relationship and bond. Continue doing the itinerary on Monday on Our Family Wizard, and that he transports. And I know that he really would like to have a meeting at the halfway point so he doesn't have to transport so far. But given that this is a day visit for 6 hours, I am still at the point where he should be fully responsible for the transportation.
Is a 6-hour day visit on a Tuesday something that Mr. Kiyoshi, you can do with your work schedule?
Yes, I'm off all day Tuesday, so that would work. Like Miss Beth Fellows was saying, I just was trying to see if we could meet halfway, so I'm not driving an hour. I leave an hour and a half early just in case traffic jams up because it is I-5. And then another thing we talked about was the father-son relationship. My only concern with that is we've done the supervised visits. I've turned in notes from the supervised visits, and it shows that me and my son have a good relationship. I don't understand why it still needs to be just me and him. I understand not bringing them home until the home visit is made by Miss Fellows, but the fact, like, I can't even take my son to go on the play date with his cousins at a park away from home. It's not going to be in this house, at a park away from home. I don't understand why I can't start introducing him to my side of the family. And they showed up to his birthday party, which was supervised by Parents' Place. He had a good time there. There were no issues. I don't understand where he's going to get overwhelmed by family is coming from. I get staying away from home. Why can't he meet his cousins at the park and play for an hour or two?
And Mr. Kiyoshi, you reside in Olympia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Ms. Vaughn. I am inclined to increase visitation to the 6 hours. I will talk about location. I am going to, at this time, decline for child to be taken to father's home, but will 6 hours from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. work for the child's schedule?
It does interfere with his nap schedule, which he goes down between 4 and 5 p.m. So I had messaged Beth back saying 4, maybe 5 hours would be easier to manage with his routine than 6.
Mr. Kiyoshi, would 10 to 4 work for you?
I'm asking for 8 hours, and it keeps getting cut down.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm his father. Yes, I understand if he needs me.
I'm giving you, sir, we're increasing from supervised to 2 hours unsupervised to now 6 hours unsupervised.
Yes,
so I'm asking you first if 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. works.
Yes, yeah, that
Okay.
works.
So I am going to issue a bench order that increases unsupervised visitation from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesday. I will increase where he can go. So I'm not sure the timing really works out for him to be taken back to Thurston County. My preference would be that any indoor playtime, which it seems like that's the big concern for winter, certainly can be accomplished in Cowlitz, Clark, or Lewis counties, which are the adjoining counties to Cowlitz. So I think for right now, that is appropriate. It keeps child close to home. Then you're not driving an hour and a half back to Thurston. I'm not saying we don't get there eventually, especially after a home visit, but then this is at least a start, gives you more options for indoor play, especially in Clark County. I'm still going to have you provide the itinerary to Ms. Fellows and Ms. Vaughn. I will allow in public locations like indoor play areas and outdoor parks for cousins to be present for these visits. I do think that's appropriate at this time. I take into account that he's fully completed the parenting program and that he's in full compliance with his DV program at this time. Anything else, Ms. Fellows, that we need to address in a new order from your perspective until we meet again?
Not that I can think of. I am, my understanding was that mom went in the morning on Tuesdays. So I just want to make sure that she's able to get Corey to the drop-off point in the mornings.
Are you able to get the child to the drop-off location by 10 a.m. on Tuesdays?
I do have therapy. I'm being treated for PTSD from 9 to 10 a.m. every Tuesday. So it will enter that.
PM or AM?
AM, 9 to 10 a.m.
Okay. Well, then I think we just have to go back to 11 to 5. I understand that that's going to probably interfere somewhat with a change in nap time, but I think that's just where we have to be at to balance the interests of Mr. Kiyoshi, child and mom. So we'll do the 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Tuesdays. Let's set a review date for this. How far out do the parties want to go?
I don't see a reason to change from this until he's completed his DV classes.
Well, my preference would be we set something after drop-in visitation has been done by Ms. Fellows and a home visit. So maybe I'll ask Ms. Fellows, should we be looking into January for a review date to get both of those things done?
Yes, that's what I would prefer.
Okay. And then in January, are we still, yeah, we'll still be at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. Okay. What if we set this to January 17? So it gives parties about 2 months to get all of those things done. And I would, if the parties are going to argue for or against a change in this, it would be really helpful to have declarations or other materials rather than just coming to, so I can read those ahead of time, rather than just coming to court and telling me things that I don't have any documentation to support, okay? Oh, okay. So January 17, 9 a.m. And it will, for Ms. Fellows, you may already know this, it'll be in front of Judge Evans starting in January.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great.
So is the bench order that you're going to write, is it going to be about the adjoining counties? So Cowlitz and then adjoining Clark and Lewis?
Yes, I'm going to include that those visitations can include Cowlitz, Clark, and Lewis.
Okay.
Okay, anything else we need to do today?
So can anybody tell me what the hearing in October was supposed to be about? I have our bench order from September and it says our next review is November 22nd. So I have no clue what that was supposed to be for.
I have a review date in the bench order as October 25th, 2023.
Mine says
I believe, Your Honor, I think what had happened is you had set the review date for today, but when you wrote the bench order, you put in that October 25th date, I believe is what happened. And so I knew about it. Apparently the dad did, but the mom did not. I think it was mainly because in that September hearing, it was not announced that there was the October hearing.
Okay. So Ms. Vaughn, it wasn't a bench order. Mr. Kiyoshi was present. Ms. Fellows was present. We did note that you weren't present, and we took no action and struck the matter and moved it to November 22nd today. So nothing was done, but there was a hearing.
Okay, and then the only other thing we had talked about the last hearing that didn't get brought up today was him getting my late father's mugs to me. He still has not done that.
Mr. Kiyoshi, I do remember talking about some of those personal belongings. Where are you at with that?
I can't find them, and I'm not, in all honesty, I'm not here for mugs. I'm here for my son. I don't know where her mugs are. She packed up, she moved out. I'm not going to be responsible for her mugs.
Okay, well, this is a petition for dissolution. As part of that, personal property is at issue. So we'll have to leave that as a contested issue for trial. And certainly Ms. Vaughn can make any requests about replacement value of those items if you have lost them. So I don't love your response, sir. It's a little bit off-putting, to be honest.
Yes, Your Honor.
She does have the absolute right to ask about her personal property in a dissolution proceeding.
Yeah, I understand that.
So saying that you're not here for that is not okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
So we'll leave that as a contested issue when this matter goes to trial. Again, Ms. Vaughn, you'll be able to ask for those items. If they're not able to be found, you can ask for the value of them. And I understand there's some sentimental value there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. We'll see you back on January 17th.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Next matter I'd like to call is Alexandria Vaughn and Zachary Kiyoshi, 22-3-25408 is the cause number. I'll ask if Alexandria Vaughn is on the line.
I'm here.
Okay, welcome to you, Ms. Vaughn. And I'll ask if Zachary Kiyoshi is present. Okay, welcome to you, Mr. Kiyoshi. All right, and
Beth Fellows, GAL, is present as well.
perfect. Thank you, Ms. Fellows. I appreciate that. So it's set today, my understanding, and I'll hear from the parties, is that we're here for a review. So my notes indicate that there was a motion for a parenting plan that's filed back in August of 22. At this point, there's been no temporary parenting plan put in place. Also I'll hear from Ms. Fellows if you can share with me what was to be reviewed today and kind of what we do next, because this case is kind of stagnated and we need to get some type of temporary resolution. So I'll hear from you, please.
Absolutely. So this has been in front of Commissioner Nelson and Commissioner Carmi. You're right, it's been kind of slow going, but we are here to review Dad's visitation and his compliance with his treatment. He is in treatment with DV or for DV. And so I can report that I have been getting the compliance reports on a monthly basis. I have had contact with his treatment provider as of the 9th of this month. I wanted to find out how much longer he had to go. At that point on the 9th, he is at level 1, which is where he was. He had a minimum of 24 weeks to do. At that point, he was at 16 weeks. So he basically has 8 more weeks to go as of the 9th. So that should actually be probably about 6 weeks now. The compliance reports are very positive. He has been attending. He is doing the work. There are no concerns. His visitation has been slowly increasing since he has been in treatment. He has also, just to let the court know, he did complete substance use treatment. He's also completed a parenting class. So this is like the last piece that he needs to finish. His visits started off as video visits. Then they went to professionally supervised for 2 hours every other week. Then they increased to 2 hours every week. And then it went to unsupervised in October of last year. And he was allowed 2 hours of unsupervised time, and he had to provide an itinerary via our family wizard. And then in November, I'm looking at my notes here, November, it increased to 6 hours unsupervised time, but he had to remain in the Clark and Cowlitz and Lewis counties. And so that's where we are regarding his visitation right now. He does live up in Olympia, and mom and the child live down here. So he travels down here for the visitation. He has been providing the itinerary. I have been able to catch up with him at one of his visits here recently. Had no concerns. I also did a home visit up in Olympia to check out his home. And I sat down with Zachary for a while and talked with him. I've also talked with mom about where we should be moving forward. After careful consideration, my thought was to move forward kind of at a slightly faster clip than mom wanted to. One of my considerations is that dad does live in Olympia. It is a good hour's drive, sometimes hour, 10 minutes, something like that. So that is kind of a distance for a little one. So I was considering looking at an overnight. And the other thing I should back up just a smidgen is that dad's days off are Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Mom's days off, I believe, are Mondays and Tuesdays. So it has made the visitation a little bit complicated. But I was like looking at the visitation that we have, trying to figure out how to move forward, recognizing dad has engaged in what he has been ordered to do. And so trying to be able to move forward. Mom is apprehensive and does not want to move forward at quite such a fast clip, going to overnights, going from the 6 hours. So her suggestion was to do 4 weeks of 8-hour visits, day visits, but where dad could take him up to his home. Dad really feels like he has done the work to be able to get the overnights. I do tend to agree that it would be beneficial for the child to at least have some familiarity with dad's home before doing an overnight. So I could potentially see doing a couple maybe of those 8-hour visits and then move to overnights. I did not have any concerns with dad's home. He lives with his parents, and I believe his sister and family lives there as well. There have been concerns about substance use, alcohol, marijuana, and another kind of substance called kava, which I have talked to dad about and told him that my recommendation would be that nobody would be under the influence during his time if he were to have his child there, Corey, and that he needed to talk to his family. He has since communicated with me that he has talked to his family. Everybody has agreed, but I would want it written into the court order that there not be anybody under the influence of any type of intoxicant, and in specific alcohol, marijuana, and CAVA. So that's basically where I'm at, kind of in a nutshell. I'm trying to bring Your Honor up to speed. There was talk about a halfway point also for the parents to meet. Mom did make a suggestion, which actually I looked at the map and it looked right on target. It would be exit 72. I think it's Napa Vine, but it's Rush Road, I believe is what it is. But that's about a halfway point, and there is a gas station or a truck stop there, I believe, Love's Truck Stop. So that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Fellows. I appreciate that. Ms. Vaughn?
Yep, pretty much everything she said in a nutshell. I was saying to go because he's only had these 6-hour day visits where he's got to be like Disneyland dad, that having this day period, 8 hours for maybe say 4 weeks of day visits in his home for that transition time. My child's only 3 years old. Big transitions aren't exactly easy for 3-year-olds. So I thought it would smooth it a little bit over. And while he's still finishing his DV classes, it would give him time to learn all these new ropes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kayoshi?
Morning, Your Honor. Yes, when Ms. Fellows came, we did talk about speeding the visits along. I would like the overnights. I feel like I've done enough. I've done a lot.
No, they didn't
and
say fascinating.
I'm still on track with treatment. I'm in compliance. I've done the hair follicle tests. I've done the substance abuse, completed that, the parenting class, and completed that as well. I feel, I mean, I show up to every visit. I feel like it's time to move to for me, it's time to move to the overnights. Because yes, I've been the Disneyland dad just because I haven't been able to take him home. And to bring him home would make it easier to to sort of discipline instead of, just trying to find something to do for 6 hours outside the home. And by discipline, I mean like getting him up early, brushing his teeth. Those are things I want to do. And I can't do that. I mean, moving forward with the 8 hours, I'm still not able to do that. I haven't given them a shower in 2 years. I've done everything the court has asked me to do, and I'm asking to move to overnights instead of the 8 hours.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate the input from the parties regarding kind of this next step in the evolution of the parenting residential time. A more pointed question is that there was a motion for a parenting plan filed by Ms. Vaughn back in August of 2022. We've been piecemealing it ever since then. It appears. My preference would be to do the following. One, I'm okay with the suggestions as far as kind of a tapered or a gentle ease in with several weeks of 8-hour visits and then overnight visits. However, I want to have a more comprehensive plan in place, a parenting plan, where much has changed since I'm assuming the child was young back then, it's 3 now. Much has changed since August of 2022. So I would like to see proposed orders from the parties of what you feel the proposed parenting plan should be in the future. Kind of looking at kind of a long-term temporary plan until the case can go to trial. So I'll make some interim rulings here today related to visitation, but I want to set a future hearing date and tee it up to the parties that I need to have more information from you of what you feel like what this is going to look like more long-term. So I want to have you submit declarations of what you feel is going to be in the best interest of your child as far as residential time, holidays, exchanges, all of that information, and then submit those proposed parenting plans with supporting declarations. So just any thoughts on that, Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, so I had already discussed this with Beth. With his dad having Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, and our child will be starting Head Start here but not before too long. I did mention to her that with him being out of Cowlitz County, that he should maybe be considering trying to get into a position at work where he has weekends off, so that he could maybe get him in the long run every other weekend. But at this time, I mean, I have no control over his work schedule or his plans, but that's what I would like to see.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that I want both parties to kind of treat this as like a new motion for a parenting plan. You're both going to say, this is the parenting plan I think is the best, and you'll fill out the proposed parenting plan, and then you'll submit declarations of why supporting why that's the best plan in your view. And so we would set a date for a hearing, and then kind of have something more concrete in place so the parties can move forward. Mr. Kayoshi, are you comfortable with that approach?
Yes. I do want to say that yes, I am off Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I've said this to Miss Beth Fellows. I want to be a father. I want to be a part of his education. I don't think, yes, I'm not downplaying education, but I want to hold off on him going to Head Start so I've lost a lot of time with him. I want to be able to spend some time with him before he starts school, and then I have to work around his schedule with school. It's not required that he go to Head Start. I've told this to Miss Beth Fellows.
So in the proposed parenting plans, I'm asking you both to submit. It has a section of before the children are involved in school, which would be preschool time, and then when they're involved in regularly enrolled in school. So those are issues that you can raise in the parenting plan. So we're not going to decide that today. I'm just saying this is what's going to happen. You're going to submit proposed parenting plans. You're going to submit declarations. I'm going to set a date today where we'll come back and address this and get this clarified, and so the parties can have some concrete guidance. So today's the 24th. I'm looking at setting it to the 28th of February. Does that give the parties sufficient time? Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Right, Mr.
Yes.
Kayoshi?
Yes, Your Honor.
We'll come back on February 28th. The parties will have submitted the proposed parenting plans, your declarations supporting each, and you'll have served each other, and I'll have those to review. As far as today's activities, I'm fine with 2 weeks of 8-hour visits. And I know that it sounds like you both have a day off on Tuesday, it sounds like. And so I'm just wondering if the best day would be for those 2 weeks of 8-hour visits, if the best day would be on a Wednesday.
Tuesdays would be best. We're both off Tuesdays. Me and Beth, and I think she related to his dad, that right now he gets 11 to 5. We were going to up it from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and meet at the 72 exit Love's truck stop.
Mr. Kayoshi, does Wednesday or Tuesday work better?
Yes, Tuesday works.
Tuesday. All right. So the visits will occur starting next week, Tuesday, 11 to 7. And the exchange will occur at exit 77 at the truck stop. There will be no alcohol or mind-altering substances consumed 8 hours prior, and also not during, by any party, and also anybody within the household. And then that will occur for 2 weeks. And then thereafter, the overnight visits, what's the proposal there for that to occur on what day? Is it the best to occur on a Tuesday afternoon to do the exchange at that time and have a return on Wednesday?
So we were trying to figure that out. Also, it's exit 72, not 77. When it comes to that, I do work Wednesdays, so it would be very hard for me to meet him. I can meet Tuesdays for drop-offs, but then I wouldn't really be able to meet Wednesdays because of work, so I'm not really sure.
What time do you get off on Wednesday?
I work 7 to 4 typically.
So why don't we have the exchange, the overnight exchange, occur at Tuesday at 6 p.m. and then the return be Wednesday at 6 p.m.
That should work.
Mr. Kayoshi?
That works, Your Honor. So I'd pick them up on Tuesday at 6 p.m., drop them off, and we meet, and the drop-off is at 6 p.m. Wednesday?
Right, at exit 72.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so 2 weeks of the 8 hours. So next week will be the first week on Tuesday, 11 to 7. There'll be one the next week, 11 to 7. And then the following week will be the Tuesday at 6 p.m. until Wednesday at 6 p.m.
One more question, Your Honor. And that, I'm sorry, that 8-hour visit, I am able to bring him up to Olympia?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, as otherwise, then we'll see everybody on the 28th of February. Any last items or clarifications needed?
Nope, that's everything for me.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Next, I have Alexandria Vaughn and Zachary Kayoshi. This is cause 22-3-25408. We'll touch base, make sure everybody's here. I have Alexandria Vaughn. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Zachary Kayoshi, are you here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. And Ms. Fellows is present as the guardian ad litem.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, one moment. All right, so we are here on the motion related to the parenting plan, and work schedules and Head Start are some of the issues that are need to be resolved. So maybe I could first hear from Ms. Fellows, and then hear from Ms. Vaughn, and then from Mr. Kayoshi, if we can proceed in that fashion.
Yes, Your Honor. I received the proposed parenting plans and the declarations from both parents, reviewed them, reviewed and looked over and wrote down the differences and what looks similar. I've also talked to both parties at length. And although there's a lot of issues as reflected, and there are differences and stuff like that, I was really able to talk with both of them about being realistic, and the work schedule and the Head Start and the week on, week off, and just a lot of those issues. What I can say is that both parents have been exceptionally receptive to the conversations and to really as the GAL, my expertise on what's realistic, and really trying to look at the other side, and just looking at everything as a whole. So in essence, what I would say is that I think that there's much more of a meeting of the minds now since having those conversations. I definitely give kudos to both of these parents. I will also say that when they each got the other's declaration and proposed parenting plans, they were both kind of taken aback and shocked. And it took a while to kind of work through that. But what I can say is at this point, I think we kind of have some agreed things that I think that my thought would be is to kind of make a few changes to the existing visitation, potentially see how that goes for, say, about a month or two, and also I would like to be able to continue working with the parents to try to basically come to an agreement, and maybe like in, say, 60 days, being able to talk with both of them, trying to iron out some of these issues, potentially being able to come back to court and they would have agreed parenting plan.
Okay. So I'm assuming there's agreement that the exchange is going to be at exit 72, the Love Stop.
Yes, right now the visitation is Tuesday overnight to Wednesday. They do meet at the truck stop at exit 72. My thought was to have the visit remain Tuesday overnight to Wednesday, but increase in time. What the court had ordered, I think, was 24 hours, 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday overnight to Wednesday. However, that impacted upon Dad's DV class. So I worked with the parents to basically shift it 24 hours. So like, I think it was 1 p.m. to 1 p.m. And the pickup or the exchange is at the exit 72. They've been working together doing that. And what I can say from Mom in particular is, after having the conversation with both parents that I've just recently had, she commented to me when I did talk to her yesterday, is that there seemed to be some lightness to the exchanges, that they're getting better, and that there seems to be, they're just getting along a little bit better. And I think that having this process and me being able to talk with them and just kind of, talk things through about, they both love their son, and their son is their primary focus, and, what's logical and that kind of stuff. So my thought would be is like Tuesday at 11 a.m. Mom has counseling on Tuesday. So she feels like she would definitely be able to get Corey up to the exchange spot at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays, and then go until Wednesday, overnight till Wednesday at 6 p.m. She works on Wednesdays, but she gets off in time where she could get up there to the exchange spot. So that is my recommendation at this point in time, maintaining that dad and anyone around the child not be under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, or kava. And then potentially look at a review with the idea of coming back with a final parenting plan on May 1st is my thought.
Decision making, it sounds like the parties are communicating well, and was that part of the recommendation?
Well, at this point, I have talked about decision making. I know dad wants joint, mom wants sole. Given that there is the distance between mom and dad. Mom lives here in Longview, dad lives up in Olympia. Also is that their communication is just starting to get better. And so I really feel like mom being sole decision maker makes much more sense, but that dad be allowed to have contact with medical providers, school, that he have that information and be able to access that information. In my conversation yesterday with mom was like, if we're doing the exchange on Tuesdays, then she could possibly do, if appointments are available, appointments on Tuesday. Dad could come down, attend those appointments, and then take Corey back up with him. That was her suggestion, which I give her kudos for. So that to me shows that there is forward movement in their communication and ability to co-parent. They're on the beginning stages. They're our family wizard. I do have access to it. Their communication has gotten much easier and much more friendly. But again, they still do have a ways to go. So I really want to not put the cart before the horse, give them some more time to kind of work through this, see what they're, see how things go. And there is the distance, and there is dad's work schedule, which it is what it is, which is what I told both of them. And it's not fair or right to ask dad to change his work schedule at this point in time. It's also the week on, week off. As a GAL, I would not recommend that at this point in time. He's a 3.5-year-old right now. He just started having in-home visits and overnights with dad. So that's a big leap. So I talked to both parents about this, and both of them were receptive. We did butt heads a little bit, I will admit, but they understood where I was coming from and were able to basically agree to a certain extent. I mean, they may have other things that they would really like to see happen, but I did let them know from the GAL perspective where I stood.
Thank you, Ms. Fellows. All right, Ms. Vaughn.
Yes, John.
Pretty much just what Beth said. I think right now him having Tuesday to Wednesday, those are his 2 days off from work. That works the best when it comes to trying to juggle all the schedules. I did offer him to have a little bit more than 24 hours by giving him the 11 a.m. I have an appointment from 9 to 10 every Tuesday. So 11 is about the earliest I could get the kid there. And then I do get off at 4 Wednesdays. So pick up at 6 would be fine at the halfway point. I agree with her about the decision making, me having the sole primary decision making, but with the limitation, so to say, that I keep his dad informed, which I have no problem doing. I have done that via our family wizard this whole time. I have no problem continuing that. But that I do agree that right now we're not necessarily at a place that I think me and him could mediate between the two of us. I do think we do need her or somebody of that nature to kind of buffer a little bit. We're just starting really to even be able to talk to each other, it feels like.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kayoshi?
Yeah, I think we're moving forward. I did. So yeah, I think we're all three of us. I mean, we're in a good place of communication right now, and I'm not arguing that. But I did write. So I had some thoughts I wrote out just so I wanted the court to hear. I wanted you to hear, and it's nothing that I haven't already talked to Beth Delos about, and I'm sure she might laugh when she hears this. But so right now, this is looking at both parenting plans. These are when I did my my parenting plan up, and she did hers. I did my declaration. I had more thoughts I didn't want to throw into there, but I will say here in the court today. So right now is the most time I am going to spend with Corey before he starts kindergarten. The GAL says moving to week on, week off visits before he starts school is too big of a change for Corey. But still, my time with this all started because Alexandria did not have said I did not have a relationship with our son, which was not the case. But still, my time was immediately cut to 2 hours supervised visits, then 6 hours with county restrictions, to 8 hours for 2 weeks, and now I get him overnight before this court hearing, which I should have had him overnight 3 weeks or 3 times before this court hearing, which did not happen. Once because he was sick, and I get that if he's sick, depending on how sick he is, I don't want him to be moving back and forth between me and his mom, especially when the commute is an hour away. So 2 years later, so now looking back at everything that I've done that the court has asked me to do, 2 years later, I'm still restricted and unable to take care of our son when he's sick because of transportation, which I understand, but it's still limiting my responsibilities and duties as a father. The GAL disagrees with the proposed plan of holding off kindergarten and allowing the week on, week off visits to take place, which I disagree with because it would help me build a better relationship with Corey before he starts school and starts seeing new and different faces outside of his own family. This is the most time, like I said, I'm going to spend with him because he is not in school. I've done everything that I have done everything for this very moment to be able to take care of him as a father. Everything I've learned from the parenting class that was court ordered, I can't even implement and practice with our son because she's trying to put him in school so soon. If we would have stuck to the 8 hours visitation once a week, or even the overnights 24 hours once a week in total for the year, that's 1,152 hours out of a year, which is 8,760 hours. I miss out on 7,608 hours of the year. Now is my time to spend with Corey before he goes to school, and work schedules and school schedules limit that time for us drastically. The week on, week off would also help with both of us and childcare costs and set an easier schedule for both of us to make the pickups and drop-offs instead of having to do it every day, basically, to once a day for the week and then coming back. So it's I get more time with him, and it makes it easier for that transition of the pickups and drop-offs. Corey has a great time when he's here. He never wants to go home when I drop him off, but I don't hold him. I get him to go with his mom, and I'll tell him I'll see you later, in hopes that I do and he doesn't get sick and visits get canceled. He shows no indicators of mental distress from the changes we've made up to this point. I respectfully disagree with the GAL and would like to hold off on kindergarten and would like to move to week on, week off visitation until he starts kindergarten and spend more good quality time with our son. And if need be, she can come up at any time to see those interactions, because I think it might help the court and help everybody to see what I see when he's up here. And then I just said, I do not want to be a father that just pays child support. I want to raise my own son as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kayashi. Appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I appreciate the input from all parties, and I'm especially encouraged to hear that the parties are communicating better. And I can only tell you that just from my experience of what I've seen, when parents are working really hard to communicate with each other, that only benefits their child. Because when they see mom treating dad with respect and they see dad treating mom with respect, that child feels respect. Because the way you treat the other parent, the child interprets that as the way you're treating them, because they're half of that other parent. So when you're kind, when you're respectful to that other parent, and you speak in positive terms about that parent, you're actually causing positive benefit to go to that child. And the reverse is true. When you're negative or disrespectful or speak poorly of the other parent, the child internalizes that as negative talk to them, because they identify with the other parent, because they want to please that other parent. And when the other parent says poor things, speaks poorly of the other parent, the child internalizes that as they're speaking to them, and that's negative to them. So I congratulate the parties on the progress you're making with the communication. That's absolutely key. And Mr. Kayoshi, you mentioned your proposal is a 50-50 plan, so splitting it in half for each parent. I think that's important in a lot of situations. That works perfectly and works really well for the child, and the child is blessed by the benefit and the input of both parent. One thing to keep in mind also is that stability and gradual change is generally good for most children. Abrupt changes are more difficult for children, and those adjustment periods, we try to smooth those over and minimize those as much as possible. So during any period of which the court is looking at a case, the court's going to carefully look at how the parties interact with each other. And if the parties are interacting well with each other, there's a greater likelihood that a 50-50 plan could be implemented. When there's a lot of strife, there's a lot of disagreement, and there's a lot of distrust, and the parties are not communicating well, 50-50 plans don't work. And the court is really not inclined to implement those, because the parents are not getting along well, and you have to get along well. You don't have to like each other. You just have to be civil and respectful to each other, and then communicate well with each other. And if the court sees that, there's a much greater likelihood that a 50-50 plan would be put in place. So, with that, the work schedule, the kindergarten start time, and the like, those are important considerations. Ms. Vaughn has been raising Corey predominantly for the past few years, and Mr. Kayoshi's time has been limited, but it's starting up, and that's very much encouraged because both that little Corey's a boy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure, because Corey could be a girl too. Corey needs the input of both parents. Happy children are children that have the good influence from both parents, and I think that's really important. So, with the overnights just starting, I think it's important to continue those that new schedule that the parties have kind of ironed out, the 11 a.m. Tuesday to Wednesday at 6 p.m. And that, and appreciate Mr. Kayoshi's calculation of the number of hours in a year and the amount of time. And when you put it in those terms, that's pretty limited. It's pretty limited. So the court appreciates that. So the Tuesday, 11 a.m. until Wednesday at 6 p.m. would be Mr. Kayoshi's residential time with Corey. The exchange will occur at exit 72, the Love truck stop. And I appreciate those exchanges. Your child is watching you always and picking up a lot of the nonverbal cues. So as much as you can be positive during those exchanges, that benefits your child. Because any negativity that's expressed towards the other parent, the child internalizes that and they take it on the chin because that's half of their DNA is talking to them. Both parties are restrained from consuming mind-altering substances, period, during the time of their residential time. So that means any substance that would alter your mental state. As far as decision making, I've heard from the parties, and decision making generally relates to health and education. So health issues, would include any emergency visits or maybe a rash that's unknown or a cough or things that aren't resolving, and a checkup occurring, the annual checkup or the well child checkups that occur. And then the education piece. I'm inclined to grant joint decision making because I think it's going to foster the parties communicating and learning how to communicate again about important issues. And yet there's some reservation I have related to the kindergarten and Head Start. So I'm going to hold off on joint decision making, but know that I'm inclined, if the parties continue to communicate well, to allow for the joint decision making when we come back on May 1st. I think that's important that both parties have a say, and there may be divergent opinions related to that, and that's just something you have to work through. But it's important that both parties have opportunity to, and that perspective. With that said, I think that'll be the court order at this point in time. It's going to be a temporary order. It's a temporary order, if you will, parenting plan, in that when we come back on May 1st, there's going to be some more decisions related to holidays, related to the 50-50 plan or the limited plan that we have here. And then we'll probably talk about Head Start, kindergarten, and the like. So some decisions that are fairly important. Yes, Ms. Vaughn.
So Corey was already on the wait list for Head Start and was already offered a spot. And I've already requested that they wait until the fall instead of right now to put him in, to allow his dad the whole summer's time. And with that, she said she would get me taken care of for intake likely in March. So I do need to have that answer like way before May 1st. I can't keep passing up positions, and this is the last one.
Well, you'll have to make some decisions on how to approach that, but it sounds like you have a spot reserved for the fall. And there's some intake in March. We'll be here back in May. If you proceed as planned, and then you have to change based on the court's decision, then that you'd have to make that change. But you move forward with whatever plans you have, and Mr. Kayoshi does the same until there's an order that intervenes or changes that. So I'll draft up an order that establishes that temporary parenting plan with the parenting hours for Mr. Kayoshi from Tuesday 11 a.m. to Wednesday 6 p.m. The exchange will occur at exit 72. The restriction of mind-altering substances, limited decision making to Ms. Vaughn, and then the return date of May 1st. And again,
could it be there hasn't been any concerns about mom and any substance use. It was actually dad and actually dad's family. So that was actually what was has been in the order before.
Okay.
So I would prefer it to be reflect what it has been before, that it be the father and the father's family, anybody around Corey during his time.
I'm fine with that. Okay. Any other comments from Ms. Vaughn or Mr. Kayoshi?
No, I mean, me and Beth did discuss if he's having anybody else in his home watch Corey, that they be registered through DCYF, just as my child care provider is, just so that they're adequately trained.
So you're saying his mother or his father couldn't watch the child?
So she said it would be his sister, which was the same situation I had, and his family has all come into court. They've all been a part of the abuse. I just would like that they take these classes to instill the quality care that Corey deserves. His dad has taken them. I'm not asking his dad to do that, but whoever becomes his primary go-to caretaker be certified through DCYF.
I'm denying that. Seems overly restrictive. Any other questions?
And what I would say, Your Honor,
It's
is that
if
with
you're going to
these
address that
visits,
issue, I've addressed that issue. We're not discussing that further. If you have a different issue, go ahead.
no, with these visits are for Dad. And so Dad will be taking care of Corey.
That's my assumption. And if, dad needs to run an errand, then somebody watches him, takes care of him, and dad comes back or takes his boy with him.
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to say one thing. I haven't used any substances, not even alcohol, and I understand her concerns, but I'm not going to leave my son with someone that I wouldn't trust to watch him. I wouldn't put him in harm's way if I'm not willing to do that. And I just want her to know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll draft up the order and then I'll get that filed and we'll be back here on May 1st. And again, I'm looking at the best interest of the child. Best interest of the child is served when parents are respectful and kind to each other and give the other the benefit of the doubt. And because that fosters a great relationship for a child. So we'll be looking for that to continue and we'll be back here on May 1st.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, that concludes the matter for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.